campfire, strumming along with our favorite lyre. Adventure call, the quest awaits, your destiny's in the hands of the fates. But never fear, we're all friends here, we'll have your back when danger's near. Come with us through the pages as we unravel a tale for the ages into the Percy-Verse.
Hello and welcome to the Percy-Verse Podcast. I'm Alisa.
And I'm Anna. Grab your new best frenemy and jump in the thrill ride of love, because today we're reading Chapter 15, A God Buys Us Cheeseburgers.
So they're frenemies.
Well, no. They are meant to be enemies, becoming friends.
Yes.
Eventual lovers.
we were literally just talking about this, but I do think there needs to... maybe there does exist a word for, like...
Yeah.
They're not full enemies, but
right.
They're not... There's, like... They squabble, they fight a little bit.
Yes.
There's, like... They don't fully 100% get along, and so I don't know what the word...
But they're, like,
for whatever that
friends.
is.
Yeah.
It's not full enemies, it's like...
No, but it's not full friends.
Yeah.
Well, I have donned my best Aphrodite scarf for the occasion today.
Yeah. I am not wearing anything specific to this chapter. I realized I'm wearing a shirt from Cloudcroft, and this is the wrong book.
That's true. You'll have to wear it again.
So
for
I'll
the
need to remember
chapter.
For the Cloudcroft chapter, like 2 years from now or whatever.
Oh my God! Yes,
to wear this shirt.
One of my favorite little places on earth.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I could go on a whole tantient about Cloudcroft, but it was really wild.
In 2 years.
Will. And it won't be quite that long. I
know.
don't think, but it'll be a little bit from now.
A little.
But yeah, it was really wild. I pictured it so differently in my head based on the book, and it took me so long. Like, I think when we were there, you had to be like, "This is Cloudcroft,"
this
like
is
in the
place.
book, and I was like, "This is the same Cloudcroft." What
there
are you
wasn't a
about?
giant boar when we went.
What?
I wouldn't even recognize it without the giant boar.
Know. Yeah. Where are the skeleton warriors?
Yeah.
Come on, skeleton warriors.
Well, maybe we just, Well, no, we were there around close to Halloween, so I guess there could have been.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity.
Oh. Anyways.
Well, we're currently still in The Lightning Thief.
Yes, and we're currently
15.
in Denver.
And we're currently
Colorado,
in Denver.
Not Cloudcroft.
Yes, which I have been to.
You have,
Enjoyed.
Which I wanted to ask you, the description of the Rocky Mountains being like a tidal wave about to crash into the city. I wanted to ask you, because I've never been to Denver.
Yeah.
Did it feel like that being in Denver?
I really liked that description. I liked that metaphor. It felt so Percy to bring it into like in the middle of a desert to bring us like an ocean metaphor. It was like
to be landlocked and be like, but the ocean. That's the
water.
metaphor.
But what if the mountains were water?
Yeah.
I think, it's like you can't miss them in the city or anywhere when you're driving on the highway. We did go into the Rocky Mountains, but even in Denver and even driving south of Denver, like you're kind of like encased or like surrounded. Like when you see them.
Do they feel like they're towering over you? Or
I think it depends on where you
that?
are. Like in my memory, it wasn't quite like they were going to crash onto me. I think that's a very cool image to kind of give us. I think in my memory, it kind of depended on like where you were in the city or like where you were in the area. Okay. But you couldn't miss them. Like they were definitely a huge presence in like the skyscape. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, And it also, in my experience in the Pacific Northwest, mountains can look really different based on the weather and the clouds and the sun and just like how everything. Yeah. So it's totally possible that there would be a day where they would feel like tidal waves crashing on you potentially, right? Because they would like look bigger or more imposing or something. Yeah. Just based on like how mountains can look here. So that would also be my thought. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. I'm just like here in Texas being like, so those hills are pretty big, huh?
Super hills.
Those are some pretty big hills we got.
Yes.
In the hill country.
In the hill country.
Okay, starting actually like fully diving into this chapter. I love that we start with the actual like it's June 14th.
Me too.
We're a week out from the deadline. Like, I love that we get that specificity. It's kind of fun to get that calendar tracking, because this is a quest with the deadline is such a key factor in it.
And specific.
Yeah, that I love that we get those actual calendar reminders. Like, in my brain, I'm crossing off, okay, and now we're on June 14th.
The alert shows up on the phone, like, 7 days to doomsday.
God, they needed that in the Lotus Casino. They needed calendar
notifications. This is what I'm saying. Like, every time we get a date reminder, then this happened last time too, but I get stressed about the Lotus Casino.
Yeah.
Though I do feel like I feel a little better reading that they have 7 days from Denver. Versus, like, prior, it felt like they weren't getting across the country fast enough. Yeah. So, yeah. And we don't know how they were going to.
Yeah, no, because they made, I mean, being all the way to Denver now a week out was really impressive. That is, like, half the country
We're actually making good time at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also the description of they hadn't taken a shower since Half-Blood Hill. I was like, yikes. Like, it makes sense. We follow them along on their journey. They haven't really had an opportunity. But I just couldn't help but be like, no one kind of was going to do a little sink shower on the Amtrak train or something.
Yeah,
just a little,
get some baby wipes out, like something. Yeah. This definitely seems like probably a common demigod problem of questing. Yes. So I think maybe we need specific, like, demigod towelettes or, like, some kind of product that's made for, like, a demigod on the go. Like a go bag, you know, and it has some way to get a little cleaner as you're going through, and maybe you don't have access to showers. And
because that hygiene. Is on basically, like, every single quest, I guess, except for in Heroes of Olympus. By the time the ship is built and everything, they've got, like, bathrooms and showers. You know, they've got all the amenities.
Yes. Thank you, Leo.
But I can only imagine, like, going through Tartarus, they probably smell crazy.
Well, see, but Tartarus smells even crazier than crazy, so I'm sure they wouldn't even, that's, like, so low at that point, like, Maslow's hierarchy, that's, like, lower than low at that point. They're like, there's too many other smells and bad things happening there. Oh my gosh, your skin's basically, honestly, maybe it's actually sanitizing you to be in such heat. Just if you think about it, it's like your skin's basically boiling off. So maybe you're just shedding the smell constantly. And the I think you're I actually don't think smell is actually quite an issue in Tartarus as much as above world.
Or, like, oh my gosh, in Labyrinth, you know, they're not getting showers when they're going through
Labyrinth. I mean, that's a problem. Because, like, I'm thinking Sea of Monsters, like, you're at least proximity to water, like, you could splash some water
you can take a little dunk and
just a little something, as long as, depending on what monsters happen to be around you that day.
But, well, and then they get the makeover.
You know, right, exactly. So. We go to a spa.
I mean, Annabeth gets it. They get turned into guinea pigs.
Yeah, probably doesn't help the smell to get turned into a guinea pig. Well, anyway, that kind of reinforces my point that I think we need some kind of demigod towelette product.
Yes, an easy on
there's
the go.
There's a gap to fill here in the market.
You don't have access to a shower. You're sweating constantly because you're constantly on the move and you're fighting monsters. So you're like,
and probably getting monster stuff on you. At least Percy, like, went for a swim, but it wasn't a very clean water, so I don't know if that helped.
It kind of cancels.
And he didn't get wet, I guess, right? So
right, that's true. He didn't get wet, so it actually didn't even. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's better that he didn't. That water sounded so nasty.
No, for sure. Maybe not. Maybe not.
I think it would have made it
worse.
Well,
we were very ready for the change of clothes and access to water that we got in this chapter.
Yes.
Either way, for sure.
Yeah.
And they hadn't eaten since the night before in the dining car somewhere in Kansas. So I think, we're back at that place of, like, kind of like when we were in Jersey and we had chips and that was our breakfast, this is... but we're in even more dire straits because we're about to use our last monies to make a phone call.
Yes. Which, and I just love that we're kind of continuing the train of Percy being like, hey, like, I thought we couldn't use phones, and Ambush being like, I'm not talking about phones, and then later on, like, just this train
not explaining at all.
Love that we haven't left that behind.
Nope.
But I realized that, like, for all of this, like, we've kind of been, and, like, I've been griping on, like, why isn't anyone explaining these things to Percy? I literally did have a moment in my real life. We had a new person join my improv troupe, and, like, the way our show was done had changed, and I realized no one had communicated that to him, and so we were talking about it like everybody knew, and then I had to be like, oh, wait, no, what told you?
You're like, this happens.
Like, yeah, and he was like, oh, okay, great, because I was seeing you, like, text and stuff, and I did not know what on earth was going on. So I felt like it was a moment of the world checking me and being like, you've complained about this in a book for long enough, I'm gonna have you have a real life moment of...
You are part of the problem.
I'm part of the problem. So I am Annabeth and
Chiron
and Grover and everyone.
We are Annabeth. I think there is a thing of, like, when something is so second nature to you, or so, like, you learned it 7 years ago or whatever, like, you can take certain knowledge for granted. I think the difference is, like, Percy's, like, usually actively asking questions.
Fully
and
asking
just, like,
questions.
not getting answers. So it's not like someone was asking you and you were just ignoring them.
No,
you know? But I do think, you know, we can take all kinds of knowledge for granted.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
I
mean, I just said Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I didn't explain what it was. So for anyone listening who doesn't know what that is, it's a concept that you have different levels of needs that you have to get your more basic needs met before you can get all the way up to something like self-actualization. And actually, he stole it from an indigenous group of people where self-actualization is the base of the pyramid, because it's more of a, like, communalistic society of, like, how your self-actualization supports me and mine supports you, etc. But there can be some usefulness in thinking about how, like, we need a place to sleep and we need water and we need food, like, before we can think about, like, going to school or something like that. So there you go. There's my knowledge explained. So they're going to a car wash, and Percy does not know why. No. And it is hot. The air is dry and hot, and that felt weird after the humidity of St. Louis. And they are going the farthest from the street, and I like how Percy is, like, thinking through more like a kid on the run kind of thought process, where he's like, we need to keep our eyes open for patrol cars because we were 3 adolescents hanging out at a car wash without a car. Valid, thought process there. And any cop worth his donuts would figure out we were up to no good. And I just like worth his donuts. I think that's funny.
Also, it's the fancy spelling of donuts. It's the OUGH spelling of donuts, which I thought was really funny. Yeah.
Not the monster kind, though.
No.
And Percy's just still asking, what are we doing? And Grover just says 75 cents.
I know. And I think it's so funny because we find out that they have been walking for about half an hour, and Percy doesn't ask what they're doing until they arrive at the car wash. So I'm just like, okay, you've been just walking around a city for 30 minutes.
Just walking.
I would be like, hey, what are we looking for? Why are we trying to go? Can someone explain? Like,
well, you would be sweating because it's hot and dry and walking for I remember even in, like, fall, if the sun was shining, like, you really have to wear sunscreen because of the altitude in Denver. So they're getting toasty here.
Yes,
because this is summer.
But they arrive, and Grover and Annabeth are, like, very focused on, okay, we need the money to pay for the car wash. Yes. Grover's got the $1. Percy thankfully has, Grover has 2 quarters left. Yes. Percy's like, I've got 2 nickels together. We can make magic happen, basically. Yeah.
He's got a quarter, and then he's got 2 nickels and 1 drachma left. Yeah.
Yes.
Which he's about to use.
Yes. So they're about to be down to... Sorry, I guess they're about to be down to just the 2 nickels because he has to give his 1 quarter.
Yeah. So we just have 2 nickels to rub together. That's it.
Yep. Doing really great financially.
Yeah.
And again, Grover's kind of being like, oh, excellent. Like, a spray bottle would be better, but the connection's not as good. And Percy's just kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, what are we doing here? And what I thought was so funny, and just there are certain moments that feel so, like, 2005 / just early 2000s.
I know.
And his response of, like, making the joke that, Grover's not really aware, but calling Iris messaging IMing just feels so quintessentially like 2005 as like the joke to make about it. Yeah. Because Percy's like instant messaging and Annabeth is like, no, Iris messaging. Yeah. And then we get the explanation, you know, that the goddess Iris carries the messages for the gods, and if she's not too busy, she'll do it for the half-bloods as well. And that in order to call, you have to like create a rainbow. So that's where they're trying to go, to like basically spray the misting in the right direction to catch the sunlight to cast a rainbow.
Yes. And then you can call Iris with the drachma. Yeah, I think it's like interesting to put technology of any kind in books, just because technology like changes so quickly. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, I don't know. I wonder how many, if you're like 8 reading this book today, like, does instant messaging even mean anything?
Sure.
To you,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Right.
So
right.
But then it's kind of fun. Like, it feels nostalgic and like retro now. Yeah. But that's kind of weird that it feels nostalgic.
I know, because it's not even like, we are 20 years out, which is a long time. But also in the grand scheme of things, a very short amount of time. But technology has changed so much. And we still use, like, we text, like, we're still instant messaging. We're just not calling it instant messaging or IMing. So the joke isn't landing in the same way, you know, if you're not used to it. But but I just think it's interesting when you're writing. The other thing that this made me realize, for a quick side tangent, is this was the first time it hit me that Percy and Annabeth and Grover are millennials.
That's
I had
funny.
never processed that before, but I was like, wait, they're 12 in 2005. They're millennials. And I was like, I think they're like your age.
Yeah,
right?
That's really, well,
maybe like a year older than you.
Maybe
12 in 2005.
Yeah. Let's see. 92.
Can we do math really quick? Are they between us?
I would have been 13 when the book came out, so I'm a year older than them. So they're between us.
So they're like, but I just thought, I had never processed in my brain that they're millennials.
Yeah, and that's pretty funny.
I don't know. I just thought that was
really funny. Because they know what IMing is.
Yeah, because they know what IMing is. Yeah, so I think because when I was reading these books, I was like 8, even though I knew they were 12. I was kind of imagining myself and them as being the same. So, I was not processing like how much older they were than me technically when I was reading them. And then especially quickly, you surpass them in age, and I'm still kind of imagining myself as them. Like connecting and with the books in that way, that this was the first time it really hit me. It's like, oh, well.
That is really funny.
We have millennial leads here.
We have millennial leads here.
In this book.
Yep.
So they call, they make the call because Annabeth, she raises the kind of practices. She raises the coin over her head and says, "Oh, goddess, accept our offering," and then throws the drachma into the rainbow, and it disappears in this golden shimmer. And what I found really interesting was that she just says Half-Blood Hill. She doesn't say Chiron specifically.
Yes.
And it made me, I really wished I could remember in the later books when we see them make these calls, like, are they always saying a location, or are they saying a person's name? I couldn't remember. You don't remember either?
Well, no, I don't. I had the same question. I didn't get a chance to look into it, but I do think that we should pay attention for that. Because if they are able to say a name, then I feel like this is more a plot thing where we need to talk to Luke and not Chiron. Yeah. If not, then that's kind of an interesting limitation of Iris messaging, because my thought was like, if you don't know where a person is, then how would you find them? I'm trying to remember when... Like, Percy accepts, like, a collect call, right? When Nico's doing the ritual thing.
Yeah. Right. Well, and also, I was remembering there are times where, like, Percy and Annabeth have called each other.
Yeah. And, like, when Annabeth is trying to find Percy in the Fears of Olympus.
Right. And she's trying to call and it won't go through.
So, it's kind of,
Yeah, we'll have to pay attention and see whether in future chapters and books, if they say the person's name.
Yeah, or if it's always place focused. Yeah. But it does seem like a limitation or a a kind of a misstep here on Annabeth's part.
Yeah.
It certainly ends up being a little bit problematic, but giving us some insight into Luke.
Yes, giving us a lot of insight into Luke. Because this is
kind of the chapter of like Kronos' minions talk to Percy. I was realizing
seriously,
I hadn't really put that together before.
Yeah, it really is. So yeah, what I also found, this is like, I can sometimes get so hung up on the minutia, but I also just found it kind of funny that she says Half-Blood Hill, like she doesn't say the big house,
and then
but
she ends up at the
it's
big
like
house.
camera pans to the big house.
Yeah.
I was like, is the goddess Iris just being like, yeah, sure,
here you go,
I'll
just
connect you here.
Yeah,
she's just kind of like doing whatever she feels
like. We're looking at Half-Blood Hill, but we're not on Half-Blood Hill, which would also be a lot less useful if we're like by the pine tree.
Yeah.
But I do like that. Like, I already feel this nostalgia. Like, I was looking through the mist at Strawberry Fields and the Long Island Sound in the distance. We seem to be on the porch of the big house. And it's just like, you're like, like it is this little breath. And like Percy does feel that way later, you know, where he's like, I don't want to leave. Half-Blood. Like, it feels like I'm here again. And it does lull him into this, like, sense of safety to really...
He opens up a lot
all
to
the things.
He tells Luke literally everything.
Yeah, which is kind of an issue, but yeah, I don't know, that kind of sense of like, okay, we've connected back with home, his new home kind of feeling is nice.
It is, yeah. So it's kind of funny. Luke doesn't realize the call has connected, which is kind of funny because Percy yells at Luke, and that's when Luke turns around and is like, oh my gosh, you're here.
Right.
Hi. And Annabeth immediately gets very self-conscious about the fact, I think, that she has not showered in however many days it's been.
Many days.
You know, she's like trying to like comb her hair and be like, no,
like, I get it. Nice. That would feel really awkward.
Yes, it would. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's not expecting to like see him.
Right, because she was fully expecting Chiron, I think.
Yeah.
And probably her brain didn't even consider the possibility that Luke would be the one picking up that phone call.
Yeah.
But we learn, he gives us a little hint of Chiron is not available because he's down at the cabins dealing with some issues with the campers. But then,
issues he caused, we learn.
Yes, we learn. Even though he doesn't actually admit to that, he fully caused all of them.
Yep.
But then a big Lincoln Continental's the car pulls up and is playing music very, very loudly, and Annabeth takes that moment to immediately be like, "Well, I'll go take care of that. I want to be off camera right now."
It's like in a cartoon. She like goes away so fast, so her like imprint remains.
Yes. So as we go through this whole scene with just Percy and Luke talking, the whole time in the back of my brain, I was just desperate for the cutaway to Annabeth of like, what is she saying? Especially because we get the moment of like, at first the music turns down a lot. I'm like, okay, Annabeth was successful, but then the second follow-up is that we hear a man scream, and then the music completely go off, and the car like peel out of there, and I'm just like, I need to know.
I want to know what happened happened. And also, like, I feel personally, as in like the mortal sense, that this is one of the bravest things Annabeth does in the whole series. Is like walks over to a strange car blaring loud music and intimidates a man so much that he peels away.
I know, a 12-year-old girl. Like,
I'm like, I would never. Like, this is the bravest thing she does in the whole series.
Is go talk to a stranger.
Just go talk to a stranger and ask him to lower his music.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, totally. But yeah, and she asked Grover to come with her to do this.
Yes. Maybe Grover does something with his panpipes or something too.
Yeah, well, I wondered if he maybe like revealed his like hooves or something.
Yeah, it seems like something magical happened. Maybe.
Yeah. And that
she does bring backup.
Yes, she does. So Annabeth and Grover exit stage left.
Yes.
And so now we get into this whole conversation between Luke and Percy, and Luke explains because it got interrupted by the music. He was about to explain what was happening with the campers. So we get this explanation that Chiron's having to break up a fight because word leaked out about the Zeus-Poseidon standoff, which I'm like, you did that. Because he then goes,
we're still not sure how.
I know. And he says, probably the same scumbag who summoned the Hellhound. And I'm just like, you did that. Yeah. you did all these things.
So we need to work on Luke's self-talk because he's calling himself a scumbag here.
He's just like covering his tracks left and right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because he specifically says that it's shaping up like the Trojan War all over again, and cites that Aphrodite, Ares, and Apollo are backing Poseidon, and Athena is backing Zeus. And Percy has a moment of being like, I can't imagine Clarice's cabin ever being on like my dad's
such a
side
good
for
point.
any reason. Yeah.
I really like this like historical reference, you know, to the Trojan War, and like especially because we're gonna end up talking about like the Civil War and like that kind of stuff, you know. I think it's kind of neat because this doesn't get like its own kind of arc, you know, to replicate. Like there's other things we're repeating from Greek history, but not this. And so I think it's cool to, I don't know, just like have this moment, and it gives you this sense because you've already met everybody at camp of like what that could look like. Like you could imagine how the campers are taking sides and playing practical jokes or whatever on each other. And I think it's really interesting.
Yes. Yeah. And then Percy proceeds to literally tell him everything, including his dreams, which
I know.
You know, it's like obviously Kronos is causing the dreams, so he knows that the dreams are happening, but like I don't know if he's necessarily filling in Luke on I was hanging out with Percy last night in his dreams and we were chit-chatting, you know.
Yeah, you'll never guess what I told him.
Yeah. So for Luke to know everything, obviously Percy in this moment views him purely as a friend and also as this mentor figure, you know, who's older and wiser and can, you know, kind of be a source of like sage wisdom and help him in this moment. But he does not realize that he's basically spoon feeding the enemy.
Right to the enemy.
Yes. Yeah. And then we get so many fascinating moments in this chapter, both with Luke and with Ares, in regards to like Kronos's whole entire master plot, because we then get Luke saying that it has to be Hades who took the master bolt, and being like, Hades was there at the winter solstice, I was chaperoning the field trip, so I saw him, I know he was there. And Luke even brings up the Helm of Darkness and saying that, you know, in order to steal the master bolt, you'd have to be invisible, which I think it's so... I'm choosing to believe that this was very intentional on Luke's part in inserting a seed of like, well, Annabeth has a cap of invisibility too.
It's definitely intentional. Because Percy says, Chiron says the gods can't take each other's magic items directly. And Luke might not know that Chiron has... Like, Luke might think that he's able to just pass it off on Hades. Yeah. Like he did to, you know, Poseidon, it seems like. But I think he's definitely trying to plant seeds of doubt about Annabeth. Partly because, like... Annabeth is probably the biggest threat to his plans with Percy because he knows that she's intelligent and strategic, and if anyone is going to have their corkboard with all the red lines figuring out like what is happening for real, it's going to be Annabeth. And so having Percy distrust her to some extent and putting himself in the position of authority, saying, I was chaperoning the field trip. That just like keeps making it be like, I'm responsible and I'm a leader and I was in charge, and like, so don't look at me. And it had to be someone like it's funny because he's the son of Hermes, so like thief powers you know are there, but he's like, they'd have to be invisible to steal from the god. And who do we know who can turn invisible, you know? So it's, I wrote nice plant because I think it's like it is a good moment to like sow that seed very organically in the conversation. Well,
and I couldn't help but read an almost other like sinister layer underneath that as well of we experience throughout the whole course of the 5 books that Luke is trying to convince Annabeth to join him.
Yeah.
And to me, this was the first time I read this as a moment of Luke trying to plant that seed to kind of create a divide between Percy and Annabeth that would also make it more likely for Annabeth to then decide to join him when he fully splits off from camp, to kind of keep
or
it
Percy
in
to
this...
join Kronos. It kind of like divide and conquer in general. Like it makes it easier to get either of them on their side.
It felt like he was doing a lot of divide and conquering, especially when he throws in the little thing about Grover at the very end of the call.
Yeah.
Like it felt like he was just doing a lot,
like undermining everyone.
Yes, and trying to kind of like reinforce tension and doubt and like bring up people's like insecurities or things
but
like that.
He's coding it in this veneer of like being the good guy, right? Like he's like acting being like he's trying to help Percy with figuring out, and like he's trying to encourage Grover by saying like it won't happen again, you know. But by in so doing, he's reminding Percy that Grover failed some other time, and so then that also makes Percy potentially doubt Grover as a protector.
Yeah, well, and bringing up like it would be safe to assume on Luke's part that Grover has not told Percy this information, you know, because he would know that this is not something that Grover talks about, you know, or shares really openly with people. And so it also feels very like, I'm just going to wedge this emotional knife in there.
Because if it's like the first time and Percy then asks Grover, and that creates tension. And also if Annabeth's there, like that's one of her worst memories. Like he's just bringing up like two of the quest members' worst memories.
Yeah. And I think we see at the end of the call that he does successfully wedge that like emotional tension filled knife, because Percy lies to Grover and Annabeth. He's like, oh no, nothing, because those seeds have been effectively planted by Luke in that moment.
He definitely has some doubts, or at least he's like taking everything in and not like, because is less sure maybe than he was before the call. Though he does lie to Luke, which is fortunate turn of events for Percy and the team.
The second time he, I think, literally saves his own life without realizing it is when he lies. Because, after this moment where Luke kind of plants this seed of doubt about Annabeth, and gives a really bad, like, he literally says, oh, hey, I didn't mean Annabeth. She and I have known each other forever. She would never, she's a little sister to me. At no point is that a hard and fast, oh my gosh, no, I did not mean Annabeth at all. Yep. I know for certain she would absolutely never. There's no way on earth she's the person. Like he did not give a hard and fast denial of, oh my God, I did not intend that in any way. He's doing it. No, I've known her for.
I totally didn't mean it.
Yeah. He's purposefully dancing around that. I think to again subtly reinforce that seed that he's planted. But then he follows up and checks about if Percy's wearing the flying shoes, and literally says, I'll feel better if I know they've done you some good. And Percy in that moment lies and just goes, yeah, they've come in handy, which they have.
They have.
Grover has made great use of them, and he's about to make even greater use of them at the end of this chapter.
Absolutely.
But I think Percy lying about wearing them, he saved his life, part 2, without knowing it.
Yeah, this is a really important moment, and it's because he doesn't want to make Luke feel bad. So it's like Percy's not lying for any reason of distrusting Luke. He's just lying because he doesn't want Luke to feel bad that he's not using his present. But it totally saves his life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny. I find it so interesting that Luke specifically checks they fit and everything, because for me, again, knowing how important the fit of those shoes is going to be, that they're not too loose, that they can't slide off, is a crucial part of the plan of them, being given to Percy in the first place.
Come to think of it, are we supposed to think, or are we supposed to think that these are magic shoes because they're from Hermes, so they can adjust to fit your feet? Because they don't adjust to fit Grover's hooves, and Luke is 18.
That's true.
So does Percy have really big feet, or would
Luke
the
has
shoes?
small feet?
Or Luke has really small feet, or would the shoes not have fit Percy, or are they meant to magically fit you? And if so, does that only work for humans, and that's why it doesn't work for Grover? But I never thought about before, like how, like, I think Luke's age difference to them stood out to me more in this read through than ever before.
Yes. No, I totally agree.
I hadn't thought about that with like sharing a shoe. Like, I can't even share a shoe with someone like a size bigger or smaller than me, much less someone who would be like that potentially different size foot.
No, totally. Well, I'm thinking for myself, like between the ages of 12 and 19, like I was wearing a very different shoe size at the age of 12 than I was at the age of 19.
Definitely. It would be very strange for Luke to either have feet as small as an average 12-year-old or for Percy to have feet as big as an average 18-year-old at the age of 12. Like, I just think that would be unusual. So anyway, his question about fit, like, it just really makes me wonder. He assumes it can fit if these shoes magically change size. I don't think we ever get that confirmed, so I'm curious.
I don't think so. Yeah, because Percy never even tries them on.
Right.
So we don't ever get that perspective from Percy of like, they grew or they shrunk. You know,
exactly.
Like, I experienced them magically molding to my
and then I just like didn't use them, you know?
Yeah. So
I'm very curious about that. Also, what size feet insert do we think Grover has?
Oh, true. Whatever. Question. I feel like he probably goes with, well, I don't know. This is actually, I thought it was going to be a very simple question, but I'm now realizing that
I know there's many questions
because I was thinking like there's so many questions. You know, it's probably going to go with like the average size for like a 12-year-old boy. Right. But I was then thinking, but the hoof that's going to go into it, like I'm sure satyrs, there's variation in like hoof size and shape as well. Yeah. And you know, and that development
inside the insert,
as well.
Inside the shoe.
Exactly. So maybe like if you naturally had like bigger hooves, you know, or like you were kind of hitting a growth spurt or something, you'd need a bigger shoe. Because is it essentially,
need a bigger shoe.
I would also be so fascinated to see, like I want to see how that works.
Insert works?
Like how the insert works, like at what part in the foot shape.
Is it styrofoam? Like, do we get that confirmed?
I think it's...
How does he not eat it?
Styrofoam.
You know, I think that'd be tempting.
Self-control. He's just like, I can't eat my feet.
His biggest self-control. Must not eat.
They're too important.
Insert.
I think we get a description when he's being pulled into Tartarus. I think his like styrofoam because
like one of them comes off and the other one doesn't. So obviously it's
but then he has
enough.
To like kick it off.
Yeah, that like it could withstand being pulled. You know. Some amount of time at least. So. So many more questions about the shoes than I realized before.
So many questions about the shoes. We need to know. Also, like I'm curious the experience of like how uncomfortable is it and how much does it like change your gait and your walk and like your and like the physicality of moving.
Well, we know he's more like walks definitely slower, and we get the description at the beginning, and that he's like quite nimble. With his goat hooves. So we know a little bit about that. The other question that I had from this section is, we're going to go from them IMing Luke to going to a restaurant and Ares just shows up, right? Yeah. And I believe that the gods are powerful enough that like, because like Aphrodite will show up in a later book and like nobody told her you know, where they were necessarily that we know of. But basically my question is, does Luke pass on information to Kronos that this is a good moment to send Ares in, or like where Percy is, or like does Kronos have a way of knowing that? Does Ares already know that? Was this already the plan? Or is there anything connecting the fact that they just talked to Luke and then Ares like happens to show up right after that? That was the other question I got from this section.
That is a really good point, because in terms of what Percy communicates to Luke, we just get this sentence that says, I told him pretty much everything, which to me feels like he would also be communicating, like, we have 2 dimes. We're in Denver, Colorado.
Nickels. 2 nickels. Not even
nickels, not even dimes. You're right.
Yes.
We have 2 nickels.
Yeah. We don't know how we're going to get west. Yep.
And we haven't eaten since last night, and we haven't showered, and like,
as you can tell.
yeah, which I think that's a really good point. I had never thought about that before, but it does feel, the timing of Aries showing up does feel very strategic.
Yeah.
And that they're kind of like desperate enough in this moment to be like, okay, we'll accept your help even though we don't want to, because we just need, like, we have no clue how we're gonna get across the rest of the United States. And so like any promise of help, plus the combination of Aries promising like information about Percy's mom, like in general, this is a very vulnerable moment to find the trio in. And so it does feel, I to me, it would make complete sense that Luke communicated this conversation to Kronos, and Kronos went, okay, Aries, you're up.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah, he's in the control center.
Yeah,
like,
and he's like, all right, it's your time to shine, buddy. Head in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't necessarily put that together, but reading this chapter very closely really made it feel clear that like this is the Kronos Minion chapter, you know, and that like then it's like I think it's connected. Like I think Luke sends that, you know, information, and it is harder for them to refuse Aries in part because they just like really need the help right now. So I think that's interesting. So yeah, as you said, when Annabeth and Grover come back, Percy responds to Annabeth asking what happened, what did Luke say, with not much, which feels like an obvious lie a little bit. It's like, I don't know, he said something. They talked for quite a while.
Because he doesn't even mention like the stuff happening at camp, because Percy could have been like, oh, he just said, you know, people at camp found out somehow about what's going on, and so there's tension there. I really think that if it had just been the little Annabeth thing, I think that would have been it. I personally felt like that last bit of Grover saying, and tell Grover it'll be better this time, don't get turned into a pine tree if you just, and then it cuts out. I think that's what did Percy in, because I think like Grover is his best friend, and that's the one string he's got on his little corkboard. What happened that I don't know. And to me, emotionally, that felt like that's what sealed the deal for Percy to lie and say not much and not want to talk about any of the conversation, rather than, I think if it had just been that bit about Annabeth, I think he would have been more likely to communicate like there's weirdness happening at camp, you know, but then leave out the Annabeth piece of it. Yeah,
no, that makes sense. I mean, he definitely leaves a bad taste in his mouth and kind of gets under his skin with that. And I like the description. He says, not much, I lied. My stomach feeling as empty as a Big 3 cabin, which I thought was just a really good, like, in-world reference description to put in here at this moment. Because we also know, like, the lonely feeling, you know, of being in the, and I think that's what Luke left him feeling like, was lonely, alone, separated from the other two. And he says, come on, let's find some dinner, which I do want to know what they would have done. Like, he says he's preparing some kind of sob story, but I'm like, fine dinner, how, with 2 nickels, you know? Like,
I think they were probably going for, we're children, and if we cried, an adult would feel bad and buy our meal.
So we were in a circus in New Jersey. And that's how it starts.
He's really, by this point, he's had the whole train ride across the country to like really
just,
embellish
fully
the
fleshing out the story.
Yep.
So they go to a booth in a gleaming chrome diner, and all around them, families are eating burgers and drinking malts and sodas. And, you know, maybe if they did cry and like make a thing, maybe some nice family would have bought them a meal. Like, you could see that happening, or even if the waitress wasn't going to be, you know, giving them free food.
I just also think for this particular group, walking into a diner of just families, I think is like particularly heartbreaking.
That's true.
For this specific group of people. Grover,
that's a good point.
Dad dead. Annabeth doesn't talk to her dad, and her mom is a goddess. Percy thinks his mom is dead.
His dad is a god that's true.
It's like, this is like
see a bunch of happy families eat burgers and fries.
And just kind of be like, cool, great. We don't have that, and
rub it in, world. That's a good point. That's a good point. a waitress comes over and raises her eyebrows skeptically. So I think she can smell them. Like, I think that's kind of what's happening here.
Yeah.
Goes,
which I think is why she asks if they have money to pay for dinner.
Which, like, rude. But also, they are kids and they are in rough shape. And maybe your first thought should be, like, concern for them before you are worrying about whether they can pay for burgers or not. But I do think they're giving off some, like, we don't have money vibes right now.
It's definitely, it's not a compassionate response, particularly because they're kids. Like, her first instinct is not to be like, are you okay? Like, you know,
even Medusa's like, where's your parents?
Right. This waitress is just, you know, hey, look, she's working her shift. She's got to make her tips. Yep. She's got to make her tips. I do get it. She's probably not making a ton of money working at a diner. But yeah, it's not a very compassionate or kind
it is
response
not.
Or energy from this
and
woman.
Grover's lower lip quivers, and Percy's afraid he's going to start bleeding, or worse, eating the linoleum, which is kind of funny. Annabeth looked ready to pass out from hunger, so they're really in dire straits.
They're not doing well.
They're not doing well, and you know, they just faced off a guy in a car, and whatever that happened. Like, there's a whole puzzle piece we're missing here of what they just went through. And Percy's trying to think up a sob story. So, you know, if he was spending that train ride kind of thinking through, he doesn't have it ready to go, at least here is what it seems like.
I mean, to be fair, like, hungry, probably sleep deprived. You emotionally do not feel great if you haven't showered. Like, sometimes when you feel really bad, it's like, do you need to drink water, do you need to eat something, or do you need to take a shower? And one of
everybody
those
go
things,
through that checklist right
or
now.
all of the above.
Pause the podcast, go take care of one of those things, come back. Or listen while you do it, whatever.
And they're, I think, kind of working with, they don't have either of those three things. They've not probably had water in a minute. They definitely haven't had food in a minute. And they haven't had shower in
We're back to
more than a minute.
Hierarchy of needs. We're not thinking up really, really complex stories with our prefrontal cortex right now. And luckily, he is saved by the motorcycle rumble. As it shakes the whole building. And it is a motorcycle the size of a baby elephant. So let's all just take that in. That's that's a pretty large motorcycle.
Yeah, it's a pretty huge motorcycle.
I mean, it is for a god, but still, that's wild.
I feel like the gods really, even when they're in their, like, quote unquote human forms, I feel like they're like, but I'll still be 8 feet tall. Like, if I have to make myself small, quite. I have to be at least 8 feet tall. I have to at least
have to be taller than the tallest human who exists. And like
I have to assert my dominance in some way.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think that's sort of the whole hubris thing with gods too, right? It's like kind of a classic narcissistic god trait to have to be special and the best in some way.
Even though he can literally control the people. Like, when he walks into the diner, they stand up, he snaps his fingers, they sit down, he's complete control.
I'm terrified at that moment. I hadn't, like, remembered that everyone in the diner stands up. I'm like, he could probably just make them all start fighting each other in that moment. Like, that's a terrifying scene, you know?
It's chilling. It's really chilling.
Yeah,
because he has complete and utter control. He could make them do whatever he wanted to in that moment.
That was kind of scary. It was kind of like culty, and I was a little bit alarmed. I hadn't remembered that particular detail. It's like, ooh, I didn't like that. But yeah, so the we do get a description that the gas tank had flames painted on it and a shotgun holster riveted to either side, complete with shotguns. The seat was leather. That looks like Caucasian human skin, which is kind of like an unnecessary, gross kind of description of any kind of human skin. Then the guy on the bike would have made pro wrestlers run for mama, which I thought was funny. And
the
he's
Rock
dressed
would be running out the door.
Run out the door. He is dressed in a red muscle shirt, black jeans, black leather duster, with a hunt, which I like that Percy is describing a duster.
Yeah.
It's another kind of like old-fashioned word that Percy's using here. And a hunting knife strapped to his thigh, which is kind of a cool, that's kind of cool. Moment.
Yeah.
He wore red wraparound shades and had the cruelest, most brutal face I'd ever seen. Handsome, I guess, but wicked, with an oily black crew cut and cheeks that were scarred from many, many fights.
This was the first time that it really stood out to me that Percy's like, handsome, I guess. Like, I guess Ares is kind of hot. I don't want to admit that he's kind of hot, but I do have to say. Like,
it must be acknowledged.
Yeah. I don't want to admit
as I'm describing the flames and the duster
and the hunting knife
strapped
to the thigh. Yeah. I'm like, oh, fine, I guess.
If I were pushed to a descriptor.
I'll say he's handsome. Fine.
Fine. But I don't like it.
No.
I don't like
him.
that I think that. I don't want to think that.
No. But you can't help.
It's just, I'm here to relay the facts of the story to the people.
And he is handsome. God, fine. Okay, I said it. Thank you.
I admit it. Okay, let's move on. Yeah. No, that is really funny.
It's so funny. Like, that it's just that inclusion of, like, I guess he's wicked.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I guess he is handsome. It just cracked me up reading it.
And also, like, wicked, I don't know, is an interesting word because it's not really, like, fully negative either.
Yeah, no.
It's like, that's wicked.
Yeah. He's like, he's a bad boy, but no.
Yeah.
I don't like him.
But that's not my type.
Yeah, no. He's like, I can see what Aphrodite sees in him, but no, I don't like him.
Yeah, 100%.
I think just especially going into, for the whole rest of this chapter, Percy's like, or not the whole rest of the chapter, for the whole rest of this interaction, Percy's just like dying to beat Ares up because Ares is like emotionally making him so angry that it just, I don't know, I didn't mean to like zero in on that, but it just was so funny to me that we get this
I like it.
whole description of a god and he's like, fine, he's handsome.
And as he walks into the diner, a hot, dry wind blows through the place. Mm-hmm. And this is when the people rise as if they're hypnotized, which is terrifying. Yes. And Ares waves his hand dismissively and they all sit down again. And at this point, Percy doesn't actually know it's Ares. But I'm just saying it is, obviously. Everybody goes back to their conversation and the waitress blinked as if someone had just pressed the rewind button on her brain, which is really interesting to me because there's this suggestion of like time, which we talked about with like Kronos of like time manipulation. So I'm like, I don't remember any other... I don't know if at the last battle, if anything happens with time. I don't really remember, like, with Ares. But it's interesting to me that time is at play here, given that he's working with Kronos, you know?
That does make me wonder if this is maybe actually a little bit of Kronos
I don't know.
Happening. Because
that's my curiosity.
I don't think we get any other... Like... I don't think we get any other description of a god playing with time in that sense. Like, I think, because I'm thinking through, I'm trying to remember the other interactions that, like, we've had with gods, especially in, like, if they've been in a more public place. And I feel like it's just, they do this thing where, like, no humans are aware. They kind of send people, like, like, they're all able to have that control over, like, how much are you aware of what's happening right now or not?
I'm trying to remember if, like, when Percy gets in the limo with Aphrodite... If, like, time pauses at any point there. But I don't remember. Like, for other people outside
I don't remember
of it,
that,
you know? Yeah. But I don't think... So it's interesting. It's interesting to me that... It really stood out to me because the waitress does this blinking and asks the same question again. Yeah. Your kids have money to pay for it. So it's like this redo moment. And so, I was curious, is that Ares or is that Kronos?
It feels so much more like Kronos than it does Ares. Especially because... You know, we really experience his... I guess we never experienced him being able to do, like, a time loop or something like that. But he is able to control time itself. And so it feels so much more... like a Kronos ability than it does in Aries.
So it's kind of interesting, like, how does that work? Like, how can he maybe, like, channel his energy through the people working for him, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that feels like a whole other question to explore maybe at some point. And the biker just says, "It's on me." And he slides into the booth, which was way too small for him because he is in, like, mega human.
He's in, like,
I'm totally not a god form.
Right. I'm just a casual 8-foot tall human.
Who has a somewhat handsome wicked face.
Yeah.
And crowds Annabeth against the window. Poor Annabeth.
Which, I know, I just, this whole time, I'm like, I would hate to be Annabeth so bad.
I would totally hate to be Annabeth.
Like, I don't think when you're sitting in a booth, I don't think anyone's, like, favorite place is to be crowded up against a window. No. But I don't get as claustrophobic, I feel like, as you do at times. But that's, for me, I'm like, if you have smushed me up against the window at a booth, and I feel like trapped.
And you're a terrifying war god.
You're like
I'm in sliding under and crawling out the side of the booth.
And I'll pull up a chair and I'll sit just at the edge, and I'll be like, I'll park myself here.
Yeah, not doing that. Yeah, and he looks up at the waitress because she's sort of like reeling from all the magic I think that's throwing at her. Yeah, and he's like, "You still here?" Which I'm just like, come on, dude.
You haven't ordered. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, you haven't ordered.
Well, no. I think he means like, are you still here? Like, mentally.
Well, no, because he points at her, she stiffens, and she turns around and marches away.
Oh, true.
So he means that as like, what are you still doing here? Like, go make our food.
That is kind of strange. So I guess he just sort of like magically tells her what they want.
Yeah. Because she comes back with like heaping, just like.
Yeah, no, that's true. They never actually order.
Yeah. But he like marches
either
her
way,
off.
it's rude.
Yeah. No, it was very rude.
Yes. Yeah. So he's kind of has this like puppet string power that's really interesting.
Yeah. Which I for a god of war and in general I know that all of the gods are able to have a lot of influence over humans, and just in general that ability to like influence people's emotions. We'll experience it with Aphrodite, like a lot of gods have that ability. Yeah. But
and Dionysus
there's something
can make people, kind of lose their minds.
Yeah. There's something really I feel like chilling about a war god, and it makes complete sense for a war god to be able to control people's actions and literally what they do in a way of like they're probably no longer even aware of themselves in their own body. That he could make whoever he wants just fight each other.
Yeah,
because he's bored on a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's wild. Like this, Kronos is the ultimate sort of puppet master of everything. Yeah, but Ares has like the puppet power in a way that's really scary to read about.
And I do think it makes sense why Ares gets so easily drawn into Kronos for that reason. Because Kronos has an even greater ability. And so I feel like if you're at that, you're like mid-level management ability to do those things. And then like the CEO is like,
drawn to power.
Well, but, come to my side and we could do great things together,
Yeah, exactly.
He's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah. No, for sure, dude.
Yeah. No, definitely. And he certainly is power hungry, right? And Kronos is like... offering a lot of power, I'm sure, and is very powerful, and wants to like create war. So that kind of
helps. Ares is just like,
Ares
let's go.
Is all about that. Yeah, exactly.
I'm itching to have another war, even though in the present day there are so many wars actively happening in 2005. There's so many wars actively happening.
Yeah. Definitely part of the context that's important.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, she gets like spun around and marches towards the kitchen. And Ares looks at Percy. And this is when we first experience Ares' ability to like bring out the rage in someone, because Percy says that all these bad feelings start boiling in his stomach: anger, resentment, bitterness. He wants to hit a wall. He wants to pick a fight with somebody. He's like, who does this guy think he is? And it's funny because I guess universally in this world, everyone is just like, nickname for Poseidon or Sun has to include seaweed.
Has to be,
because he just says, so
Annabeth is not the originator.
No, this has, I guess, been a long-standing, thing for a while. And what I think is so interesting is after Ares asks him that, Percy feels like he's looking at his stepdad, Gabe, and just wants to rip this guy's head off. And I think it just goes to show, like, how quickly Aries is able to incite those feelings and then like latch on to who do you feel the most rage at, who do you like, you are going to feel like you are looking at that person right now, even though you're looking at Aries. It's fascinating and terrifying.
Totally. Also, like, I think there's certainly parallels in how Gabe and Aries behave.
Yeah, totally.
And so it's like both, if you had somebody that you know, that you would want to pick a fight with, right?
Yeah.
But then it's also like if you have a bully, or like because he is that bully god essentially, that like it will remind you of that person and like bring up all those feelings as well. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. And Percy kind of falls for it in the beginning and goes, "What's it to you?" And Annabeth is kind of like, "Whoa, hold your horses."
We have not established who this person is yet. Percy, let's slow the roll there.
But Aries is kind of like, I don't care as long as you remember who the boss is. So he's definitely on that power trip. And I think he enjoys inciting this in people.
Oh,
and I think
totally.
he enjoys bringing that out and sensing that someone is on the verge of trying to like pick a fight, even just with him.
Yeah. Well, and it is like a way to exert power over someone, is to hijack their emotions, right? Which is what he's doing. And so I think it is, he enjoys the power trip of that, like of taking control, whether it's through his aura or more into like specifically magically, like he does with everybody else in the restaurant. It's also interesting because I feel like this is our first reference of where he's like little cousin. I feel like he likes to do that to Percy.
Yes,
so
he does.
That's like interesting where he's establishing some like familial, like family tree kind of thing.
Well, and it is funny because little cousin does this interesting thing of both bringing Percy into the fold, but then asserting Aries' own like
a
dominance over him. It's like your family, but I'm more important than you.
Exactly. You're little.
Yes. Yeah. So it's so funny that Aries is always doing that, of being like, you are my family, you are my cousin, but you are beneath me. Yep.
Totally.
And it's only when Percy recognizes what he calls the vicious sneer of Aries that he realizes who he is, because he says he's recognized that same sneer from the kids in Cabin 5 at Camp Half-Blood. And that's when Percy goes, "Oh, you're Clarissa's dad, Ares, god of war." I love how we always get the like official titling, like Talia, daughter of Zeus, Ares, god of war. Like we always have to have that like official like. It always makes me think of it reminds me of like Pride and Prejudice, or like that era in England where they'd like have the person at the door and be like, "And announcing Lady blah 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 blah,"
right, exactly.
Or like in the Gilded Age at like all the parties they have the person announcing
at the front. No, it is very formal. It is kind of funny, but I also think it's interesting that like his first sentence is, "You're Clarissa's dad." And like I don't know if like at this point if Aries even would like not getting top billing,
sure.
I think it's kind of the whole kind of way that he says this is very interesting.
It is, yes, and then we get, but in response, Aries grins and takes off his shades, his sunglasses, and then we get the description of his eyes, which is another thing that in kind of the list of like images so visceral that they have always stuck in my brain. This for me is another one of those from this book, because it says, "Where his eyes should have been, there was only fire, empty sockets glowing with miniature nuclear explosions." Which is wild to like look into someone's eyes and basically see, like, I've always imagined it's like he's seeing like the mushroom cloud and fire just like in Aries' eyes.
Totally.
Which
is... And, maybe Aries is just angry because his eyeballs are on fire all the time. That would really hurt.
You know what it just made me think of, and I've never thought of this before, In the Hercules Disney movie, how they have Hades' hair before.
His hair is on fire. That's why he's angry.
But then like when it goes out and he gets embarrassed.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He's like, what? And then he's like, turn it on again.
That's right.
He's like, no, my hair.
Identity. Just saying, these gods have all these things on fire. Like, that can't be comfortable. That's just my thought. But also, as a podcast that has been curious about the magical properties of eyes in mortal characters, it is interesting to have such a specific description of Ares' eyes, and it just makes me think that, like, eyes are important in this universe.
Yes.
For us to keep thinking about.
Ooh, that's true. That's a good point. I also want to take a moment to, like, appreciate... I have always really loved how Rick Riordan took the, like, gods, like, what their dominion is over, and put it into the modern day, you know, of that time in 2005, but he continues to, like, every time we meet a new god, how he, like, modernizes them, like, Ares' attire, like, you know, and even just that his eyes, because I don't think his eyes as a human would have always been.
Right. Well, like, nuclear explosions wouldn't have existed.
Exactly. And so, like, in my brain, that makes me think that over time, basically, as like humans have developed more horrendous ways of killing each other, that his eyes have changed to, like,
that is really interesting to think
like,
about.
The worst weapons of war that, like, humans have at that time.
At first it would have maybe just been fire, and then are we seeing, like, spears in his eyes or something? Like, that's a really interesting thing to think about.
Because, you know, we know that that their appearances have changed over time, you know, and that they adapt to the age that they live in. And
a guillotine at one point in his eyes. So I'm thinking about all the countries they were supposed to be
when he was in France.
You know? Yeah.
Just hear like, shing,
ching. Just like when he closes his eyes, it's like a guillotine sound.
Oh my God. Oh jeez. But yeah, and even that, like, he's riding in on a motorcycle, like, for the take that Rick Riordan has decided to go with Ares, you know, and representing him, I just feel like he does a really good job at, like, honing in on that. And, you know, like, and it just has always felt like it's fit that Ares has been kind of this, like, aggressive biker dude, basically.
I thought they were saying all bikers are aggressive.
No, because honestly, like, most are incredibly kind.
Stereotype.
Like, it's a huge stereotype, and I feel like I more often hear about, like, I went up to the really big muscly biker guy, and he was actually the sweetest person in the world and helped me out when I was lost, and you know,
exactly,
like, but in turn, but that idea of I think
taking
Ares,
the stereotype of it, I think does make sense.
And I think picking that, like, because the gods don't actually really understand humans in that way, and I feel like I can imagine Ares being like, what looks like the biggest, meanest, like, I'm gonna pick a big motorcycle that I can rev, and I'm gonna, like, be decked out and, like, the most weapons and, like, possible, and like
though you know, keeping in mind that, and we may need to track this more, but so far leather has been exclusively used for characters that are out to get Percy, so it is kind of interesting to think about. Like, leathery descriptions so far have only really been signs that somebody is maybe not such a good guy to be around. So that's kind of interesting to keep paying attention to.
Well, and in general, I feel like in media as a whole, a character wearing leather is either a villain or lives in that gray area.
Or just, like, really cool.
Like, But I feel like even if they are just really cool, they're, like, cool with, like, a bad twist.
Oh, yeah,
totally.
It's like, it definitely has that connotation. But, you know, to think about, like, the leathery wings or the leather whips. Like, there's just... It's, Percy should be seeing this maybe as a... Even more of a, like, warning. Red flag. Like Ares is nothing but red flags, to be honest. Be honest. And it's interesting because he then says, that's right, punk, about being Clarissa's dad. I heard you broke Clarissa's spear. So it's like, you know how we're always talking about how, like, Zeus is watching Camp Half-Blood as, like, reality TV?
Yes.
I feel like this is extra confirming that Camp Half-Blood is reality TV, because it's like, so how did it's not like Clarice went to her dad, because we know that that's, like, she would just expect to get in trouble with him, and like that would be really bad, you know?
Well, and he actually does, like, if I remember correctly from the Sea of Monsters book, like, I feel like Ares, like, doesn't let this one go. The fact that Percy broke her spear, like, he actually uses it against her quite intensely.
Like, he acts like it's cool here,
but with Clarice, he's like, that was the worst thing you could ever do, is like let your spear get broken by Percy.
So I don't think she's the one telling him. So I'm just like, they're up there watching Camp Half-Blood reality TV, and Zeus is ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Zeus is ridiculous. Tagline for the whole...
Yeah. For everything.
For everything always. Just
for everything always. But he sort of like plays it off and says, after Percy says she was asking for it, Ares responds, probably, that's cool. I don't fight my kids' fights, you know. What I'm here for. I heard you were in town. How did he hear that they were in town? Via Luke, via Kronos, is my theory.
Yep.
I got a little proposition for you. And before he can say what that proposition is, the waitress comes back with heaping trays of food, cheeseburgers, fries, onion rings, and chocolate shakes, which sounds really good and is making me hungry. So good. I know. And it's also funny how, like, they keep getting fed like cheeseburgers and fries by everybody. Actually.
That's true.
That's true. They're like
the last time they got
hot meals that they get.
Cheeseburgers, fries, and shakes.
Yep. Classic demigod quest food.
That's so funny. I hadn't
being given
that
by characters with some nefarious purposes.
Yeah, that is really funny. And then I feel like on another power trip, Ares gives the waitress drachmas, and she has like enough of her mind about her to be like, wait, but these, like, this isn't money. Yeah. But he asserts his dominance and is like, problem, sweetheart, which is so gross. Gross. And she just leaves with the gold. And this is the point at which I just feel really bad for this woman who's probably just trying to work her shift and then go home.
I know.
And all of a sudden is having to deal with the god of war and like
that's a rough day. That's some bad luck there.
No, that is unfortunately. And that's when Percy goes, he's kind of calling Ares out, and he's like, you can't do that, you can't just like threaten people. And this is where I don't know if Rick Riordan intended it this way, but I think is so fascinating, because he specifically has Ares say, are you kidding? I love this country. Best place since Sparta. And I just think that is such a commentary on the United States. Yes. And like, and is such a good one. I think that to kind of say like, oh yeah, the god of war's favorite country is the United States for very obvious reasons.
Literally look at like the budget, just like how we prioritize our money, right? Yes. And you look at like the defense budget spending versus like education or social services or anything like that. It's like, the god of war would be like, you all prioritize war, not to mention the way that we like have for most of the country's history, like trying to be on the forefront of weaponry and like overpower people by force and like impose that on others. But it's like, of course Ares would think that the priorities are right here. And not only like the country in terms of like how the government is like instituting wars, that's not the right language, but you know that like the government is starting wars constantly, but then also the like proliferation of weapons and how easy it is to buy guns, and just how much that is a prevalent like way that the United States is like culturally, that is very distinct from other countries. Ares is like super
around the world.
With that.
It makes complete sense that Ares would be like, I love the United States.
Because if gods are like kept alive by like people thinking of the thing that they're all about, as opposed to like Pan being like an opposite example, then Ares is getting plenty of energy and fuel.
He's thriving.
And, he's thriving from everybody engaging in having weapons and violence and bigger wars and stuff like that.
And then this is where we get Ares's proposition of basically like, go on a side quest and I'll help you with your main quest. And so we get the rundown of, he left his shield at this abandoned water park. He was going on a date with his girlfriend, and he needs them to go retrieve it for him. And Percy gets he's still very rage filled, and so gets confrontational.
Also, though, like, all of this is still snarky Percy. Like, even from
fully.
when he first is like, what's it to you? Or, like, you can't do that. You know, I think he's, like, it's a combination of angry Percy and snarky Percy kind of, like, combining into the most, like, risk-taking Percy that we can experience that makes Annabeth quite nervous.
Yep. Absolutely. And basically Aries kind of gives like this long explanation, but basically just kind of is like, because it's like too low of a thing for him to do, but also Percy, don't you want to prove yourself? And, you know, he's kind of doing emotional mental gymnastics.
The kitchen sink at it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, here, take all these reasons. I don't really care. I'm being told to do this by a Titan, and I really just want to give you a backpack. So let's just kind of get through this.
Basically, I need you to do something so that you don't question why I will then give you a backpack.
Give you something. Yeah, exactly. Which I was really feeling that way as I was reading through this. I was like, this is so unnecessary. Yeah. And like, are we also maybe trying to like just like take up time, like make the quest take longer? Like, I was trying to figure out if there's a larger strategic reason from Kronos for sending Percy on this quest.
Well, like, my theory is not so much that Kronos is wanting Percy to go on this specific quest, but that Kronos tasked Ares with deliver this backpack and like sidetrack him a little bit or something like that. And Ares was the one who like made this whole thing happen. Because I think, to me, like the quest and the fact that they end up like on basically candid camera and like to me it felt like Ares again wanting to do like a power play, and so taking the opportunity to be like, okay, I have to give this kid this backpack, but I want to like assert my dominance over him and like make him feel less than me in the
and
process
just like
of
mess
doing
with
it.
him, which I'm sure he's like happy to do. Though I was thinking like the whole situation doesn't really set the gods up in the best light. Like, it's like we have gods who are cheating, we have gods who are setting traps, we have gods who are literally, we get the reality TV show camera setup. You know, if we're trying to be getting Percy to not trust the gods, I do feel like I don't know, doesn't make them look great.
No, that's true. Well, and I honestly kind of think Kronos probably, knowing Ares well enough, to be like, I don't have to do much to get this guy to make the gods look like fools. You know, like
he's like,
I just
Ares
have to
basically
basically
all on him, all by himself. By existing.
I just have to send him off, and he'll take care of the rest. Like, I can just trust that his first instinct is going to end up making the gods.
It's going to be
like, look
pretty terrible. Yeah, that's a really good point. So yeah, I think it is like this combination of how to get the backpack to Percy and also sidetracking him and like making it take longer.
Yeah, and I think probably making it, I think I already said this point, but like making it so that they don't question why he's helping them, and so them making them do something that's annoying and takes up time and results in some humiliation, I think will make them feel like, okay, well, now we're not going to question why he's helping us because we like went through this humiliation ritual.
Well, in the next chapter, we'll also like read how he explains what he's giving them to. So like, will, you know, and he sends them off with like animals in a back of a van. You know, it's not like he's giving them like a really great, you know, ride or anything. And so he has this final line where he's egging on Percy. He says, "Will you prove yourself a coward, or maybe you only fight when there's a river to dive into so your daddy can protect you?" And I feel like that was kind of like, that's like that, oh, you know, like when people are like facing off in the playground kind of feeling. It's like, okay. And it makes Percy want to punch him, but somehow he knows that Ares is waiting for that. And he recognizes, which I think is really great insight on Percy's part, because it could be so easy to just be taken over by this. He recognizes that Ares' power is causing his anger, and that Ares would actually love it if he attacks, and he doesn't want to give him the satisfaction. So I thought that was really kind of like mature moment for Percy to like recognize that and not buy into it.
Well, I think it's it is very mature, and it also, I think, like I was thinking about how on the internet, like there's like rage baiting, where the whole point is someone does something to like make someone else mad. And I just feel like that's Aries' whole deal.
Yes.
He's like constantly rage baiting people.
Aries is online a lot in 2025.
He's on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's
oh my god, Aries is Twitter. Yes.
On Twitter.
Yes. Yes. That is his.
Yeah.
Can we sometime in the future figure out which social media app each of the gods uses?
Totally. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
thanks.
Yes. I think Aphrodite's on Instagram.
That's literally what I was just thinking.
I think she's doing Instagram.
Yeah, that's what I was literally
I do
just
think
thinking.
you could maybe make a case. I think in a previous time, I think when beauty influencing and beauty videos were like the biggest thing on YouTube back in, I feel like it was like 2015, like that era.
Yeah. She moved from YouTube to Instagram.
Yeah. But I feel like in 2025, Aphrodite's on Instagram
for sure. Yeah. So we got to circle back.
Well, yeah. Well, we have to circle back and determine where everyone else hangs out. Hestia is not on any of them. I can tell you that for free.
I was just thinking, Hestia is like sending like smoke signals or handwritten letters. Snail mail.
Yeah. But I think it's it's very mature, and also I'm sorry, I'm like losing my words kind of fully right now, but I think it shows how much Percy learned from Gabe, because I think Gabe did similar things, and I think Percy's able to realize it like more quickly, because Percy gets incredibly angry, and Aries does this quite successfully, and he doesn't realize it straight out the gate that Aries is doing it, but I think in the course of this relatively short interaction, I think Percy does realize it quite quickly, and I feel like that is a reflection of how much he was was used to Gabe's behavior and learned from it, and realized like, oh, I'm experiencing the same thing again, and all he wants is a reaction out of me, so I need to pump the brakes and not give a reaction.
Yeah, I think that's a really good insight, because I'm sure that is how he learned how to do this, because otherwise I think it's a really in either way, it's a really impressive, like, kind of de-escalating and self-regulating, like, really, really quickly from being
and like
so
self-restraint,
up, which is really hard to do. Yeah,
because he doesn't, like, he's still angry. Like, I don't actually think he doesn't. I mean, we get the description. He doesn't get his rage levels down until Aries leaves, and so I feel like it's just literally that he's like, hold the line, just keep it in,
like, hold the line. And particularly impressive because he says, we're not interested. We've already got a quest. Yeah. And I think that no is really interesting. And we always talk about Percy's good instincts. And I think this is another example. He's not sitting there thinking, I bet Aries is like working for Kronos secretly or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But he says no. He says we're not interested. And I just think for a demigod to say that to a god, much less the god of war, who's actively making him angry, and to like have the presence of mind to say like, we already got a quest, we don't need a side quest, even, when they're not in the best position in the current quest. I think it's really impressive. And then Aries pulls a thing kind of like Dionysus did. Where Dionysus has Percy seeing kind of like people losing their minds and like turning into dolphins and stuff like that. Aries' fiery eyes makes Percy see things he doesn't want to, like blood and smoke and corpses on the battlefield. And Aries says, I know all about your quest, punk, which I'm like, he does. From multiple different angles, he does. And then he gives us really interesting context, and I feel like there's multiple, like in both of these interactions with Luke and with Aries, we get the information we need to know that they're the bad guys, and like they tell us where they were and how they did it. Fully. It's wild. He says when that item was first stolen, Zeus sent his best out looking for it. Apollo, Athena, Artemis, and me, naturally. If I couldn't sniff out a weapon that powerful, if I couldn't find it, you got no hope. Nevertheless, I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. Your dad and I go way back. After all, I'm the one who told him my suspicions about old corpse breath. And it's like, in this one little sequence, he says basically all the puzzle pieces of like how he got involved with Kronos and is setting everybody up, like setting Hades up.
Well, and he literally in his next dialogue after Percy clarifies that Ares told Poseidon that Hades stole the boat, he goes, sure, framing somebody to start a war, oldest trick in the book. He literally says the words framing. He admits, like, framing means that you were setting someone up for something that they did not do.
Because he's saying that Hades is setting someone else up, right? Like, he's saying Hades is framing someone, but it's like, he's telling on himself. Like, he's saying exactly what he did. It is wild. And he's like, I recognized it immediately. I'm like, yes, because you did it. In a way, you got me to thank for a little quest. And I'm like, yes, because you did it.
Literally, yes, because you were a part of all of the machinations needed to make sure that Luke got the Helm of Darkness so that he could then go and steal the lightning to the Master Bolt.
Is it that Ares gets on Kronos' side when he goes to find the bolt? Or that he was already
I'm sorry.
On
Yes.
Side?
Yeah, no, it's only when he goes to find the bolt. Yes. Yeah. Yes, sorry. Luke did all that piece on his own. And Ares actually does... I don't
he is
like
successful.
How he is successful.
I think that's what's interesting. As he says, if I couldn't find it, you've got no hope. So I think it's interesting because he's actually... That's the only, essentially, lie he's telling here, is that he didn't find it.
Yeah, because I will get that admission on the beach fight. Yeah, right. When Ares kind of is like, I was a part
of
villain
the monologue.
Yes. And then this is where we get basically like Ares' bargaining of him saying, do this thing for me. I'll arrange a ride west for you and your friends, and I'll tell you something you need to know about your mom. And I think it's the combination, but also in particular information about his mom that really kind of seals it for Percy specifically.
Because at first when Ares says, I'll arrange a ride west for you, Percy says, we're doing fine on our own, which is not 100% true in this moment.
It's false.
And Ares says, yeah, right, no money, no wheels, no clue what you're up against, which that is certainly true.
Yeah.
But I think that the mom piece kind of really, like you're saying, hangs him up. And Ares even says, that got your attention. And then he just assumes he's won and says, the water park, and kind of tells him where to find it.
Yeah. Because I think after, if Ares hadn't brought up the thing about Percy's mom, I think after he left, Grover and Annabeth would have been like, a god came and told us to do something, we have to do it. Like, we just simply, there's no other option. Because they do that anyways. They're like, a god came to you directly, we literally have to do this. Like, we will be cursed if we don't. But I think Percy would have been a lot more stubbornly against it and been like, no, we don't need his help. Like, we shouldn't do this. And I think it's the mom piece that kind of gets rid of that last bit of stubbornness and makes him go like, no.
Which is something that Kronos has already used. And so I think it's just, he knows that that's Percy's sort of like weak spot that he's going to be able to manipulate him from at every turn on this quest. And they get told that they're looking for the Tunnel of Love ride. And then Percy asks a very good question.
Yes.
So it's like, read the fine print before you go on the side quest.
Yep.
And he says, what interrupted your date? Something scare you off? And this part's really interesting because Ares bares his teeth, but Percy recognizes the threatening look from Clarice and that he's got good intuition and attention to detail. And he knows there's something false about it, almost like he was nervous. Yeah. And then Ares is kind of blustery in response. And then they actually kind of black out after that.
Yeah.
And Ares is gone, and they feel like, they've been in a trance or like fainted or something, which I think is really interesting. Like, he just has an immense amount of power over people's minds.
He really does. Yeah.
And then Grover says, not good, because Percy's like, maybe that was a dream. Quickly, he's like, no.
Yeah. He's like,
Ares sought you out, Percy. This is not good. Which, anxious Grover in the house always.
Yeah.
We gotta love Grover.
Yeah.
And, Percy's wondering if Ares even knows anything about his mom or if he's just playing with him, which is a valid question. And all this anger has drained out of him. He's realizing Aries must love to mess with people's emotions, like we were just talking about.
Yep.
And it's interesting because he says that was his power, cranking up passion so badly they clouded your ability to think. And I just wrote, like, Aphrodite, like that's so similar to what she does. And I think that's talked about later when we meet Aphrodite, but it does sort of make so much sense as to why they're so drawn to each other, because they do a very similar, like, emotional manipulation game in how their powers work.
Yeah, well, and I feel like I often hear people say, like, love and hate are two sides of the same coin, and Aries isn't, like, the god of hate, but I do think, like, hatred fuels war. Like,
absolutely,
the willingness to go and commit violence and, like, kill other human beings, I think has to be fundamentally driven by, like, a lot of hate fueling that.
For sure.
And so I think it makes complete sense that they both have that ability to, like, manipulate and amplify people's emotions, and that they kind of live on that, like, they're two sides of the same coin in that regard.
Very similar kind of space. And they're, like, drawn to each other for that. And Percy actually decides he thinks it's a trick. Like, he decides that he thinks that Aries is lying about his mom, and he says, forget Aries, let's just go. So even with that tidbit, you know, Percy's actually choosing to say, no, I don't want this guy to get in my head and make me do something I don't want to do, get sidetracked off the quest. And like you said, it's Annabeth who says, I hate Aries as much as anybody, but you don't ignore the gods unless you want serious bad fortune. He wasn't kidding about turning you into a rodent, which, like, all these gods just really love to threaten turning people into animals.
Truly, they really do.
Oh my god,
it's like their favorite pastime.
It's their favorite.
And Percy, I think, is very smartly hung up on, like, why does he need us to do this? You know, like, why is he asking? There's some ulterior motive here happening. And Annabeth, I think it makes sense that she goes to thinking, like, well, maybe this is a problem that requires like brains or some sort of strategy thinking, because she basically says Aries just has strength, and even strength has to bow to wisdom sometimes, which I find that to be such a fascinating thing about, like, the Greek gods themselves, that there is this, like, that the god of war is not, like, necessarily, like, the one associated with all of the strategy and the, like, planning of it, that's really tied with Athena and her being the goddess of wisdom. Like, I find that really fascinating, that, like, we've got a god of war, but he is not the one known for the strategy involved in war. He is just, like, really war. Strongly associated with the, like, emotions of it and the violence of it and, like, the brutality of it. But we have this other goddess who is linked to the strategy of like
and I kind of like that she's war, as we're saying this, like, I kind of like that she's, like, a female goddess, because I think there's a long tradition of holding, like, the male as intelligent and the female as emotional. So it is kind of fun to have that, like, stereotype or tradition flipped here, and say that within war, the female goddess is the intelligence and the male god is the emotional, which I think a lot of us might even recognize from real life, like, a little bit. But I it's an interesting thing, because it kind of flips the, like, usual way that people think about, you know, or have stereotyped and pathologized, especially people on its side.
And then it's interesting thinking about then how the gods transformed under, like, the Roman interpretations of them. Mars is much more strategically focused. Like, Mars as the god of war does have the discipline and the strategy and all of that. And I imagine
there's some differences in Roman and Greek society that someone who studies that would, like, be able to explain why it makes sense for those different cultures.
But I think it's always something that has fascinated me, that within the Greek mythology there is just this distinction between, like, the act of war and the strategy of war, and, like, two distinct gods kind of
I agree.
like dominion over those things.
The other thing about this part is like we've talked about the pitfalls of holding too tightly to rivalries, and Annabeth in particular kind of falls into this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And she's done that with Percy around Poseidon. But here I think it's coming up around Athena versus Ares in terms of the different ways of approaching war. Because that combines with her fatal flaw of like kind of thinking that she can like, do anything or whatever that is. Because she very quickly comes up with this rational reason of why Ares needs their help, taking it at face value and saying, you know, even strength has to bow to wisdom sometimes. And I think that, you know, because she's like, maybe it's this. And I'm like, or maybe it's a trap. I think Percy has the right intuition.
Yes.
And the right instinct here. And Annabeth is actually getting tricked in part because it's playing to like her own hubris or her own ideas of the rivalry between her mom and Ares. And her associating Ares purely, she's like, all Ares has is strength, is such a fascinating thing for her to say after what we experienced in this interaction with Percy was the predominant thing he used was emotions. Emotional
and
manipulation.
And the ability, exactly, to amplify them, manipulate them. And so if you think about like, and Percy's right on about a trap, it's like, okay, what is the trap that it makes sense for Ares to send them into? Something that would play on their emotions and like create this humiliating moment for them, and be something that Ares, who is quite sensitive, would not want to do himself. Like he would like he knows whoever's going in there is getting caught on candid camera and everyone in Olympus is going to have a good laugh about it. I do not want people laughing at me. I'm going to go send these demigods in there because I want people to laugh at them and not at me.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, Percy asked a great question. He says, but this water park, he acted almost scared because he picked up on that. What would make a war god run away like that? Which I think is really interesting. Annabeth and Grover glance nervously at each other, and Annabeth says, I'm afraid we'll have to find out. And I'm like, it seems like we do. Yeah. And then we get a page break and we're off to our side quest.
Well, and the before we dive into everything that happens at Waterland, the other thing that I have always wondered is what was that date like, and what was the point at which in the evening where both Aphrodite and Ares pieced out and left something behind? Like because part of my brain has always wondered, like, did that date even actually happen, or did Ares set all of this up as a trap and like have the scarf from Aphrodite, knew that if he left his shield there and said that they were on a date it would make sense, but he knew that Hephaestus was already trying to catch them? Like, I've always wondered if they even actually went on a date there in the first place or not, you know?
No, I have that question too, and I think particularly because the trap is like on the shield, and so it's like, how does it get, like, does it, I mean, all these wires and stuff can move, so maybe it like moves over onto it, but the order of events, whether they were on that date or not, how the stuff gets there and how the trap gets set, if it's Hephaestus's trap, because I don't think Hephaestus is in on this with Ares in any way, so I definitely have a question of how that happened. I just would really love to know if they did actually go on the date and have to leave, and then Ares used this as an opportunity in this moment that he needed it, or was he, in which case, how did they leave without springing the trap? Like, there's a lot of interesting questions.
Or did Ares know that, like, basically, was it a more convoluted thing of like Ares had been thinking about them going on a date there, Hephaestus knew and had pre-set up these traps, but Ares then knew about the traps and so went, oh, this is actually a perfect thing.
Somehow leaves the items there. Like, that's the weird question to me, and how then the trap gets sprung. So
Right.
Maybe we can see if there's any more clues as we read on, but I do think that might be an unanswerable question, but I am curious how the order of events happened as well.
So we arrive at Waterland, which was once called Waterland, but the signs
Watrad.
So the sign now reads Watrad because some of the letters have been smashed out of it. And the like main gate is padlocked. So
great sign.
Great starting point. It's basically like a fully like defunct water park. Like it does not. It's not like they're going there at nighttime. It's like this has been out of commission.
And
like
it's a water park without the water, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So far.
And you know, luckily for Grover, he's got the flying shoes, so he's able to just like fly over the gate. Mm-hmm. But Percy and Annabeth have to, as he calls it, do it the old-fashioned way, and
yes.
like physically climb over a gate. Which
at
includes
least like
barbed
they're
wire.
helping each other hold the barbed wire. Like I felt like that was a good moment of teamwork for Percy and Annabeth for sure.
This made me remember the one time I climbed a chain link fence.
Uh-huh.
I was in middle school and we were at a soccer game and we'd like run to go do something I can't remember, and it would have like been the long way round to avoid climbing over the fence.
Yeah.
So all of us just decided to climb a chain link fence at like 12 years old. I don't know why we didn't just walk around the thing.
Helped.
Well, they did. They definitely did help. But I also remember being terrified. I remember finding it to be a very scary experience and being worried about like falling
like shaking
over.
And,
yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So then add barbed wire and you're going into a defunct water park, which at nighttime is looking sad and creepy, says Percy. This is also where Percy finds out from Annabeth and Grover that Aphrodite is in fact Ares' girlfriend, because this apparently is not something that Chiron covered in his quizzes.
They weren't going over the love triangles.
They weren't going over the Greek god love triangles, which is, I think, overall a good thing. But he's having to kind of get caught up on, it's sort of the reverse. It's like, because Annabeth even says like, this is 2,000-year-old gossip or something like that, which I thought was funny.
Percy's very, very late to that party.
She's like, you're behind on the times.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this.
I was just thinking, and I think it's because as we're recording this, the show The Summer I Turned Pretty is currently airing, but I was just thinking about, and it's a love triangle show. I don't know how much you're actually aware of it. But I think I was thinking about it because like she's in a love triangle with two brothers, and like Ares and Hephaestus are technically like related and part of the same family. Right. I was just like thinking about like Aphrodite's version of The Summer I Turned Pretty,
except
where
she's,
like she's
always been pretty.
Belly, like she's always the summer I was born, basically.
The summer I continued to be beautiful.
Yeah. But like that she's Belly, the main character, and like her TV show version of like her own love triangle.
That would be really funny.
Would be.
Yeah. Well, it would be a lot of Hephaestus trying to capture her and Ares in traps. Apparently.
Yeah. I don't know how much of a fun love triangle it would be to like read about or watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Might have to make some changes to make it a little
maybe a little
kind
bit
of like,
well, they did that with the Hercules movie, so
that's true. That's true.
Yeah. We can do that here too.
Yeah. And we get some really hilarious names for the various attractions at the park. We have Ankle Biter Island, Head Over Wedgie, and Dude, Where's My Swimsuit?
Yes.
Which, for some reason, I was reading as song titles.
Love that.
I don't know why, but I was reading them as song titles, and then I wanted us to, like, write.
We definitely should.
Like, Ankle Biter Island, Hedge Over Wedgie, and Dude, Where's My Swimsuit? But
this kind of reminds me of like the songs that are in Vox Machina that like Scanlan writes.
Yes,
that are just
totally.
Like kind of funny songs about places and things. So
and
we'll put that on the list.
Also making me think a little bit of like Weird Al like parody songs, you know, like Dude, Where's My Swimsuit felt like it was a parody song of something. I don't know what, but anyways.
Well, this is the Waterland EP is what I'm hearing needs to be made. We'll get on
from
that.
Waterland.
Songs from Waterland. That's good. I like it.
Oh man. Yeah.
I like it.
But they thankfully find a souvenir shop. And I fully respect Annabeth for first thought being clothes. Fresh, clean clothes were going.
Same. She might have to send another Iris message later. Like, she's got to get some clothes on. that stinky.
Yeah. And it's funny, that Percy's kind of like, wait, no, but you can't like just go in and take them. I think that's so funny too. Even though they're in a defunct, like a non-functioning water
closed.
Park. He's like, we can't take clothes. And Annabeth, I love that she goes, watch me.
Yeah.
She's like, I will not be
Yeah, she's like, I've been on the run before. I am not turning down free clothes.
Yeah.
This is not. Yeah.
Yep. And so they all basically end up coming out decked out in Waterland everything: shorts, t-shirts, shoes.
Which for the Percy Jackson themed subscription box that I will continue to talk about until we make it a real thing, I think some Waterland merch is a must.
Oh, it's a necessity.
For my commemorative Waterland merch.
I mean, I love merch. My entire wardrobe is essentially just merch.
Yes.
And every time I read this, I'm like, I want a Waterland t-shirt so bad.
Yeah.
I want a t-shirt so bad.
We'll put that high on the list for you, though.
I also feel like Waterland would have visors, like not just like baseball caps, but they would have visors. Because it's like 2005, you know, like,
but like the plastic visors. Yeah.
So yeah, they all get decked out. He describes them all as basically like walking advertisements for this theme park. And they're searching for the Tunnel of Love, and this is where we get the like, that's 3,000-year-old gossip, Percy, that Ares and Aphrodite like date each other, even though Hephaestus and Aphrodite are married.
Mm-hmm.
And we get some not so great language around Hephaestus and his appearance, and not so great is an understatement for me to say. It's like not good language around his appearance. And saying that like because he got thrown off the side of Mount Olympus by Zeus, that
he's
like
not handsome.
He's no longer attractive anymore.
Yeah. Very problematic.
Which is very problematic. And also I also think it's problematic that like the then statement of Aphrodite isn't like therefore isn't into him because she's into brains and talent. There's like sexism, misogyny, and then there's like the what feels like ableism, and you know like and the like look is like it's all that all kind of happens in like this one sentence. That is not good. And and
I like that Percy's comment is she likes bikers, and Annabeth says whatever.
When he's taken away, it's so funny because it's like bikers are such a modern thing, but Percy's I feel like the way Percy's brain works is like Ares looks like a biker. I found out that Aphrodite and Ares date. Aphrodite likes bikers.
Yeah, I just think it's a funny thing. And then Annabeth talks about the history because Hephaestus knows about this affair, that he is always trying to embarrass them, and that's why they meet at out of the way places, kind of explaining why they would meet in a place like this closed water park. And and we get a sense of that, you know, he's caught them in a golden net in the past, so we're kind of setting up the idea that he's trying to trap them, which then we will experience very soon, kind of a similar thing.
And so they arrive at the thrill ride Oh Love, which they've been looking for.
Apostrophe.
I know. Oh, not of, oh.
Yeah.
And we get this description of there's an empty pool that Percy notes would have been awesome for skateboarding. Yeah. And that just also felt so like 2005. Avril Lavigne, like he's a skater boy. Like, it
yes,
just felt
100%.
Like
no,
that.
I agree. I thought
fully,
that
too. Which I thought was so funny. And it made me realize I was like, I don't know. I'm blanking on if we ever get Percy skateboarding, but reading that, I'm like, he does. He is a skateboarder.
Yeah,
you know,
like definitely.
He has.
Well,
that
I think
energy.
it's also like the ocean, like surfboarder thing.
Yeah.
But then it's like, you know, he's on the East Coast, so he's not like surfing the waves in California. So the skateboard, it just makes sense for his vibe.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, I was just like, Percy does wear Vans. Like, that is his shoe of choice. It just
Percy
clicked.
has
it
a
just
Vans sponsorship.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
And then around the rim of that empty pool are a dozen bronze statues of Cupid that are standing guard with wings spread and bows ready to fire. And on the opposite side from them, a tunnel opened up, probably where the water flowed into when the pool was full, Percy notes. And the sign above it reads, "Thrill Ride, Oh Love. This is not your parents' tunnel of love." Which I was just like, what does that mean?
I know.
This isn't your parents' tunnel of love.
I know. That always is weird.
That's such a weird thing to put above an amusement park
I'm
attraction.
like, is there some kind of well-known, like, tunnel of love ride that was really popular in, like, the 50s or 70s or something?
But it just also feels so funny to be like, because amusement parks, there's such a, like, family activity.
To be insulting the parents.
To be like, this isn't your parents' tunnel of love.
That's so funny. Well, maybe they're supposed to think it's not their parents.
Maybe. But I'm just like imagining, you know, families with like little kids and they're walking around like,
it's kind of weird. Maybe this is why it's no longer in operation because the advertising was so bad. Well, and I mean, the other names of those rides didn't make me want to ride them.
No. Ankle Biter Island, I don't want to be there.
Yeah, I'm like, why?
And Head Over Wedgie, they needed a rebrand really badly.
Yeah, I think it's not a secret.
Probably, why they were not successful.
One thing that I thought was really interesting here is that we're getting these bronze statues of Cupid, who we are going to meet way, way, way later, and who is not going to be like fully like the traditional way that we think of Cupid.
Yeah.
So like, and Hephaestus made this, right? These Cupids. So I'm kind of thinking like, I'm just curious because it makes me curious if this in any way, shape, or form looks like the Cupid in the series, or like in this universe, or if Hephaestus is just like creating the sort of cheruby, like if he's just kind of going based off of like what people are used to seeing around Cupids. Right. But just because Cupid is a real character that we're gonna encounter, I just find it interesting that there's all these statues of him and like what that actually looks like.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that fact before, that we do actually get to meet Cupid, and that is such a fascinating interaction.
Oh my gosh.
It's when we get to that,
the most interesting moments.
But yeah, it feels to me like Hephaestus, for that kind of like trying to hide in plain sight thing, went with like, I'm gonna go with the cherub look so that you know I can hopefully make this trap successful, like not raise any alarm bells about it being a trap.
Totally. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, interesting that like Percy's describing it this way, and eventually we'll have that experience with Cupid. But marooned at the bottom of this empty pool that would be a great place to skateboard was a pink and white 2-seater boat with a canopy over the top, little hearts painted all over it. In the left seat is Ares' shield, and it's described as a polished circle of bronze, so it's like glinting even in sort of the light of evening that we're in. And Percy smartly says, this is too easy, so we just walk down there and get it. And Annabeth is noticing the Greek letter carved into the Cupid statues, but she's not putting together what that means yet.
No, it takes her a surprising amount of time. Yes. Honestly, I'd kind of forgotten that like it takes her seeing Edda the second time to realize what happening.
It means, even though she just explained like how Hephaestus is always trying to catch them.
I know. Yeah. So that was very interesting. And we get this little exchange where I kind of feel bad for Grover, because Percy's asking him to double check, like, do you smell any monsters? And Grover's like, nope, nothing. And Percy's like, nothing, like in the arch, you smell like kidna nothing, or really nothing. And Grover looks hurt because, of course, like, that was the mean thing.
I know. Percy. I wrote that's not fair.
No, because, like, in that chapter, he specifically says, like, we're underground, like, it just smells. And
he says it again
like,
here.
I can't. Yeah. Like, I told you that was underground.
He says, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it was a moment where I was like, let's be nicer to our best friend, Percy.
It made me wonder if, even though Percy said all the anger and rage was gone out of him, if there isn't any remaining little spurt.
Well, and that tied in with like Luke having just planted those seeds like earlier in the day and ending the conversation with that thing on Grover. Like, I think
they came together.
Yeah, especially because Percy did not then proceed to be like, hey Grover, let's chat. Like, I heard some information, I want to figure out what's going on here.
Totally.
He's still holding on to that conversation with Luke, and so then it would make sense that he's still maybe a little bit riled up, or just more easy to kind of be like, I'm going to sneak in something a little too snarky that now verges on mean, like, in this moment.
That he's doubting Grover in some way here. That he wasn't necessarily before, and yeah, very true that Luke has planted that seed earlier in the chapter.
Yeah. And then Percy has this very smart strategy moment where Grover, when Percy says, okay, I'm going to go down there, Grover offers to go with him. And Percy, incredibly smartly, in my opinion, tells Grover to stay behind because he's got the flying shoes. Him serving is like basically the backup of in case anything goes wrong.
Yes. And I like that he sneaks in like a flying ace. Like Percy is, I think Percy does feel bad for that snippy comment. And he's trying to sort of make up for it by like, you know, giving Grover a compliment about how he can be up there flying.
And I think stating like, I'm giving you an actually very important job because Grover like puffs his chest up and I think he's like, I'm going to take this really seriously. I'm going to do a really good job.
The amazing flying goat boy. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so Percy tells Annabeth to come with him, and then she has
this part's so funny.
This part is so middle school. It's so
it
middle
is
school.
So middle school.
It's so perfectly middle school that Annabeth gets embarrassed. She's like, "What? I can't go into the without saying it is basically like I can't go into the tunnel of love with you."
Yeah.
And then her embarrassment makes him embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't thinking about it that way till she was like
brought it up
that way. Yeah. And he's like, "Wait, no, I am embarrassed."
And I wasn't before, and that's annoying.
Yep. And so they're both basically like cheeks bright red, but being like, okay, fine,
we have to do it.
Yeah. And Percy first is like, I'll do it myself, but she does follow him, because Annabeth is a good hero, a good quest partner,
egg.
like. Yeah, she's not gonna let him.
But also, I think strategically, she knows that like Percy shouldn't just go alone, and like he's already has like Grover be the eyes from above.
Yes.
So obviously, like the two of them should go and tag team, picking out this item and figuring out what's going on there.
Yeah. And so they reach the boat and they see the shield propped up. Next to it is Aphrodite's silk scarf.
Yep.
And Percy has this moment of wondering, like, why on earth would two gods want to meet up here for a date when he notices that there are mirrors all around the rim of the pool facing this spot. Detail. It's such a fun detail. And he's like, oh, because they're obsessed with themselves.
They can see themselves.
They can just stare at themselves while they're like making out with each other.
Yeah,
that's why they want to come
like
here.
that he specifically says smooching.
I know.
That also feels very middle school.
It feels very middle school. Yes.
Use that as the way to talk about kissing someone.
Yes. No, totally. And I think it's kind of funny that the first thing Percy picks up is the scarf.
Yeah.
Because it like the shield doesn't really have like the rage properties, but the scarf has some love magic in it.
It does.
And it's like shimmering this beautiful pink, and it has this perfume that was indescribable. He's like, it's rose or mountain laurel. He doesn't know. It's like something good, and he kind of gets dreamy, and he's gonna like rub it on his cheek, which I think is so funny.
I think the like picturing this whole interaction, and Annabeth's just standing like so.
I know.
It.
Yeah, and she rips it out of him. She yanks it. She's like, no, stop it. We're not doing that.
Stay away from that love magic, which also could be good for a song. Stay away from that love magic.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. We need to make note of that. I love that for a song.
I'm making a note right now.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so Annabeth just basically tells Percy, like, just get the shield, seaweed brain. And this is the moment where she's like, stop being an idiot. Like, just...
Which I think is a moment of, like, that is why you fail kind of moment. I think that Annabeth letting her emotions at what Percy's doing overtake her so that she gets short with him, takes her out of her strategy brain so that she's not checking if the shield has any traps. And then when Percy... goes the moment he touches it, his hand breaks through something that had been connecting, and it seemed like a cobweb, which makes sense because we're going to have spiders, but it's metal because it's Hephaestus and they're metal spiders. And so like he gets on this tripwire, but if Annabeth hadn't like gotten so frustrated with Percy, then she might have caught this,
Well, no, especially because like going back to when she made the point in the diner of like, oh, this is maybe a problem that requires strategy and brains, not strength. She like does not have that in her brain in this moment of, okay, we got to the boat with no problem.
Yes. Like, Percy's the one who keeps being like, this is too easy.
Yes, yeah. And that is such a good point, that she gets too caught up in her, like, reaction to Percy in this moment. She basically, it's like she switches into, like, regular 12-year-old girl mode and forgets that she's not, like, Annabeth Hero on a
But
quest.
I have to say that, like, this is the second time that we're getting a hint that Annabeth has some feelings for Percy, because this is the second time that she is getting mad at Percy for having any kind of flirty love-related reaction.
Yeah.
Like with the naiads that happened.
Right.
And she's like, they're terrible flirts or whatever. And it's like, if you don't care at all about Percy, then why would you care if he's flirting with a naiad?
Right.
And if you don't care at all about Percy, then why would you care if he's, like, encountering love magic, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah. Or even just getting embarrassed at the idea of going into the tunnel of love with Percy in the first place.
It's interesting.
But yeah, so like you were saying, as soon as he goes to touch it, his hand breaks through something that he realizes had been connected to the dashboard, and it feels like a cobweb to him, which I think is so interesting, because it takes it a second, but then a bunch of spiders are going to come, so that noting that it feels like a cobweb is almost like, ooh, spiders are just around the corner. And he kind of takes him a second to realize, he's like, it's some kind of metal filament, so fine, it was almost invisible, and then he realizes it was a tripwire. And that's when Annabeth says, wait. Like, it's too late to say wait, girl.
Too late. Well, and Percy's like, too late.
Past that moment.
That's what it is. Yep.
But this is when she sees another Greek letter on the side of the boat. It's another Edda, and she goes, this is a trap, and my brain went to...
It's a trap.
It's a trap. It's Akbar, right? Is that his name?
Yeah, Admiral Akbar.
Admiral Akbar. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
And like at that point in the movie, it's kind of too late to realize that it's a trap.
By the time you said it's a trap, it is too late to do anything about
the trap. Has been sprung.
Yep.
And now you're just fighting your way out of it.
Yep.
And so the first thing that gets triggered is the Cupid statues start drawing their bows into a firing position.
Yeah.
And Percy is assuming that the arrows are going to be like what's coming flying at them.
Yeah.
But it's actually these silky cables that trail from the arrows that they arc over the pool and anchoring, and basically they land to form this huge golden asterisk over the pool. And then smaller metallic threads start weaving together magically between the main strands, making a net. So Hephaestus is he's doing the same trap.
Yeah.
Just the sequel, part 2, Electric Boogaloo. Like, he's kind of doing just another golden net. Yeah.
Yep.
And Percy goes, we have to get out. And Annabeth is like, duh. Like,
but I'm like, Annabeth, like, you didn't catch this. So you're not in any position to be dying anyone, I don't think. Actually.
And Grover's trying to help by, like, holding a section of the net open, but wherever he touches it, the golden threads are starting to, like, wrap around his hands, so he can't just, like, try to keep a section open for them to get out. When then the Cupid heads pop open, which just feels like a very scary, I don't know what configuration, like what pops open. Like, I've always kind of imagined
that's
like
disturbing,
almost like a nearly headless snake, where it's like they just like go fully back and like a camera, like,
if it's like their mouths or something,
right? Or they like split down the middle or something.
Oof.
And video cameras come out and spotlights rise up, and a loudspeaker voice booms, live to Olympus in 1 minute, and then it starts counting down. Which, you know, very convenient that it's in 1 minute, gives them 60 seconds to kind of figure out something to do. And this is when Annabeth finally realizes, Hephaestus, I'm so stupid. Edda's H, he made this trap to catch his wife with Ares, which I'm just like, girl, at this point the net came out. We didn't need to see the Greek letter. Net. We did not need to see the Greek letter. It was
a little slow on the corkboard pickup today, I feel like.
Yes, but she does specifically state, now we're going to be broadcast live to Olympus and look like absolute fools. And they've made it to the rim of this like giant empty swimming pool, when kind of like the worst case scenario for Annabeth, and therefore for Annabeth and Percy jointly as a team in this moment happens, which is that these, like, a row of mirrors open like little hatches, and thousands of tiny metallic spiders come pouring out. Which, even if you were not a child of Athena with, like, pure arachnophobia, this would be scary.
Totally.
Like,
which is why I think it happens. Like, I was thinking about that, because I was like, why would this be specifically part of the trap for Aphrodite and Ares? And I just imagine, like, it's not a pleasant thing to be attacked by a ton of metal tiny spiders in any kind of situation.
Well, and going with the, like, being trapped onto a net, and the net is, like, weaving itself and, like, spider, like I can kind of see the connection of, like, a spider
web.
It's a
themed trap. He's going with a theme.
Yeah, he's going with a full theme of basically, like, not only trap you under a net, but then weave it so intricately that, like, you literally cannot find, like, any form of escape. Yes.
And Percy doesn't know that Annabeth has this arachnophobia. So in this moment, I imagine it being very confusing for him to have Annabeth, who usually is very level-headed, very in charge, very strategic, just, like, fully collapse under the mental terror of what she's experiencing. She's screaming. She's barely getting out the word spiders. And it's an army of them, and they're coming at her, and she's just getting totally overwhelmed, and he has to pull her up and drag her back to the boat because she's not really able to really take any action right now.
Yeah. And she is basically out of commission for the entirety of the sequence until, like, Percy gets the water flowing and they, like, get away from all of the, like, thousands and thousands of tiny spiders. And I do think that, like, Percy deserves a lot of props in this moment for, like, he doesn't get mad at Annabeth. Like, he doesn't snap at her. He doesn't, like, get angry at her basically being so consumed by terror that she literally cannot function. He just basically prioritizes, like, we got to get out of here. Let me figure out a way, like, let me work with Grover, like, we're going to make this thing happen. And I think that, like, for a 12-year-old, I think it's, like, incredibly mature to not spend time getting angry at a person, like, you know, Annabeth just...
Or even just confused and disoriented. Because Percy... I don't think Percy's MO is to get mad at someone for not being available. I just think that, like, it is really confusing to have somebody who's usually very level-headed and, like, on top of things sort of, like, lose their coherence at all. Yeah. And it's a good example of, like, I think they're starting to get into a rhythm as a team of, like, taking turns, taking charge when it makes sense, and having less of that. And so I think, you know, this is where his, like, natural instincts and leadership kicks in, and he's getting, you know, her into the boat. He's reassuring himself, which I think is also really mature, that the spiders probably aren't programmed to kill them, just corral and bite them and make them look stupid. And, you know, he recognizes that she was too paralyzed to do much more than scream. So I think in this moment, he's just, like, he's stepping up to the plate, you know, when Annabeth isn't able to.
Well, and, like, to your point, Percy is not the type of person to get mad, but we have experienced him, like, snap, you know, kind of at people in, like, you know, he just kind of snapped at Grover, you know, a little bit. And so I just think, like, in a moment of such high stress, I think it would be easy to, like, snap at Annabeth and be like, what's wrong with you? Like, why? Like, like,
pull yourself together.
Go. Like, exactly. Yeah. And the fact that he doesn't have an ounce of a reaction like that, and instead is just able to see, like, Annabeth is deeply not okay, and I may not understand it, but I can recognize in this moment she's not functioning, and so I got to take care of this for the both of us, because we got to get out of here, and, like, I just have to figure this out because she is literally, like, physically, emotionally paralyzed and just cannot function right now.
For sure.
And I just think for a 12-year-old, that's incredibly mature to, like, just not even snap at her, not even be like, what's wrong with you? Why are you, like, we gotta go, like, move, or something.
Totally.
You know,
totally.
like that.
Yeah, he just does it, and he starts, you know, figuring out his own strategy. Because Grover, I think, is feeling probably very helpless in this moment. He's hovering above the pool. He's got his flying sneakers. He's trying to pull the net loose, but it wouldn't budge. And Percy is thinking about where they're at, that the Tunnel of Love entrance is under a net, and they could use it as an exit, but it was blocked by 1 million robot spiders, which sounds like a lot, even if it's an exaggeration.
Yeah.
We're getting down to the numbers 15 and 14 in our countdown, so now we're really down to the wire.
Yeah.
And then Percy thinks water, which always is a good thing for Percy to think.
Yes.
Go to.
It's like he like remembers like we're at a water park. It's called Waterland.
Yes. Like, where is the water?
Yes.
So he's trying to figure out where the ride's water comes from, and fortunately, water exists still. Because imagine like a shut down water park might not even have like access to water anymore.
Yeah.
Fortunately for him, it's going to. He sees the huge water pipes behind the mirrors, and interestingly, he first tries a mechanical solution and asks Grover to go up to the booth and find the on switch, and this takes up most of the rest of those 15 seconds.
It
just
does.
To do.
Yes. Yeah.
Annabeth still screaming her head off.
Yeah.
Poor Annabeth, not having a good time.
I know. I do think there was something almost a little bit comical to me of at this point. Annabeth just pure screaming, like has not stopped screaming, and Percy's like, okay, Grover, go turn on the button, and you just cut to Annabeth, and she's just like there's something a little bit like I feel so bad for her. Because,
no, I know, but I know what you mean.
understand the terror of a phobia and how all consuming it is, and I feel so bad for her this moment. Totally. It's a genuine nightmare for her.
But the camera cut that you're
is just kind of funny.
Yeah, it's almost like cartoon-y in a way, where like da 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 like that switch back and forth. For sure,
fully,
for sure.
And so like you were saying, Grover's gone to the control booth, but he looks at Percy hopelessly, raising his hands, and I love that like they're so close that Percy's able to recognize that means Grover has tried every single button. And nothing has worked. And then Percy decides, okay, let me see if I can do it myself. And I love this description of like he closes his eyes and thinks about waves, rushing water, the Mississippi River. He feels that familiar tug in his gut, and then he tries to imagine dragging the ocean all the way to Denver, which I think is like,
I love that description.
It's such a cool description. And at the 0 of the countdown, water explodes out of the pipes, sweeping away all the spiders, and he pulls Annabeth into the seat next to her, and he's like, safety first, and he fastens her
I think it's so funny.
I know.
Also, really quick, like, I don't think I've ever fastened a seatbelt that quickly. Like, that's really quick reflexes. Because, like, in that moment, I'd be like, how do you get the thing in the thing? Like, like missing it every time. Yeah. What's the other one?
fully. And so the tidal wave slams into their boat over the top of it. So this is a huge, which makes sense. He's just unleashed like a ton of water all at once.
Tons of water.
And thankfully it whisks the spiders away and it douses them completely, but the boat doesn't capsize. And I love that we get our next kind of like we have unlocked a new Percy power of his ability to control the boat. Like he brought in all the water, but then he is able to like the boat responds to him at will. And we'll see him like literally keep a boat together until it like falls apart once they finally arrive at their destination. So he will like get even better his ability to like literally physically control a boat.
And this is a really good setup for next book, just to like have him learn more about how he can do this. And I think it's such a fun power for the child of a sea god to have. To like it's not that he can just control the water itself, because he could control the water and therefore control the boat, but he's literally able to like the way that he's able to like talk to the ship and be like, and now raise the sails and do this, and he like instinctively knows like how to operate a ship. Like I think that's so cool. I think that's so fun. It's really cool.
Percy I love how he should be a pirate. Oh my gosh, I bet there were so many Sons of Poseidon who were pirates.
Absolutely.
Back in the day.
No doubt.
Yeah, they were all pirates.
All pirates.
They were all pirates. But I love how Rick Riordan translated the like
the boat powers.
And how he came up with the powers that the demigods would have, being like children of like, if your domain is the sea, what does all this mean that like your children are able to do? I just think that's very, very cool.
Agreed.
And so they're like rocketing.
Now they're both screaming.
Yeah, now they're both screaming because they're rocketing through the darkness of the tunnel, both screaming their heads off as they're like shooting around like tight corners.
They're definitely going
like,
faster
plunging.
than this ride was ever intended to go.
Yes, absolutely. And they're like going past pictures of Romeo and Juliet and a bunch of Valentine's Day stuff, and they're just so like funny. Going so screaming through this. Yeah, fully screaming. Now they're both just, every time we cut, it's like
sees Romeo,
Grover, cut
screaming,
to them.
screaming. Yeah. Sees Juliet, screaming.
Cut to Grover, like, I hope they're alive. Back to them, screaming.
Yeah, sees those like Valentine hearts with like the little screaming.
Yes, fully. And they get out of the tunnel, and this is where Percy, like, I feel like we really see his strategy brain, like, working this whole time, and I think that's so fun.
Agreed.
Because when they exit the tunnel, he realizes that if this ride were working, they'd normally, like, sail off between the gates of, like, the golden gates of love, like, off this ramp, and exit down, basically, like, splash landing into the pool. But the gates of love are chained, and Percy gets the idea. He's like, tells Annabeth, unfasten your seatbelt, because he's basically like, okay, we need to jump off the boat, use the momentum to basically fly over the gates, so that we can land in the pool. I think still is his intention. Yes. And I think now Annabeth is like, I think there's probably a combination of like, she's had like just enough time away from the spiders, is now having, I think, a like, we're about to die moment, like a shock of like, okay, now it is.
She's been like thrashed through this whole tunnel, so that might have like jogged her sort of out a little bit.
And she's kind of like, okay, now we are in a little bit of a life or death moment of like, we crash into those gates, we're not making it. And I love that Percy's like, okay, on my mark, and she's now locked back in. She's like, no, on my mark.
On my mark. She's like, I'm taking the reins back.
Yeah. and Percy's kind of like, huh, what? And I love that she goes, simple physics, force times the trajectory angle, and she's about to explain the whole thing, and he's like, no, got it, fine, on your mark. Like, I got it, yes, you
which
can
reminds
actually
me,
calculate.
Like, she's done this before, where she's like, it's really simple, you just blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, English, please.
And you're like, that went so far over my head. And so like she hesitates, yells now, they both jump, we get like this big crack sound. And I love that we get Percy saying, Annabeth was right, if we jumped when I thought we should have, we would have crashed into the gates. She got us maximum lift. But unfortunately it was a little bit more than they needed. Too much, and they're lift. Sailing straight over the pool that he wanted them to land into, going down towards solid asphalt. But our key man in the air,
that's right,
the incredible flying goat man, Grover, comes in, grabs both of them, and the shoes aren't strong enough to like keep them in the air, carry three people
for sure,
but it's enough to basically like lessen the fall and mean that like they can at least survive. They can survive. Like, you know, we've probably got some scrapes and bruises, but like they've all made it out alive.
Survived, except that Grover's head goes straight through the hole where tourists would put faces pretending to be Nunu, the friendly whale. Which, for the record, we now need to add to our song list Golden Gates of Love.
Oh, yeah.
And Nunu, the friendly whale. Definitely have to be added. I was gonna say, this whole sequence reminds me, do you remember that book from elementary school that was the like Fortunately Unfortunately book, where it's like Unfortunately, you're like falling through the air. Fortunately, you're falling on a haystack. Unfortunately,
right.
there's a pitchfork thing sticking out of the haystack. You know, it's this whole thing.
Yes.
This whole thing reminds me of that. It's like, fortunately, the items were there. Unfortunately, there was a trap. You know, fortunately, they were able to climb out. Unfortunately, there were spiders. Fortunately, they were able to get water. Unfortunately, they're going to crash into the thing. Like, it's just the whole thing over and over. I was like, it's very much that book.
Yeah. No, it is absolutely that book in a sequence. And so they've landed, semi-crash landing.
Yeah,
they all kind of
catch, the shield. So that's
they still have the shield. They all kind of catch their breath and then are able to realize that at the entrance of the pool, the Cupids are still filming, and they have actually swiveled so that their cameras are trained on the three of them, spotlights in their faces and everything. And Percy yells, "Show's over. Thank you. Good night."
Which I love. He like puts on his like, you know, kind of actor or announcer or something kind of persona.
It felt like a sassy version of, oh my gosh, who's the person who signed off good night and good luck at the end of every
it's very much that
name? I can't remember his name.
Or just even any kind of like Stephen Colbert, or just like any host of a show or something, you know? Yeah. But I think it's kind of funny because Percy doesn't always do like a showman kind of persona.
No, totally.
So it's, I don't know, he sees the cameras, he's like, all right, I'm going to be a little like,
I'll be sassy,
snarky,
but I'll
dramatic.
still be...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yes. And so the Cupids turn off. They're no longer live streaming to Olympus. And Percy has a really funny thought of, I wondered if Olympus had gone to commercial breaks or if our ratings had been any good. Right. Which then set my brain down a whole rabbit hole of like, okay, Olympus has TV. Right. They have to have TV channels. What are their TV channels? And then specifically, I think because this whole scene takes place at night, I was like, what is the Olympus shopping channel? Like, what's their late night TV?
Sure.
Like, what's the shopping channel? What's like, what is their equivalent? Like, are they just kind of like, buy the best ambrosia?
Well,
you know,
and we know
like,
that the Weather Channel comes from Boreas. Like, we have some of that later. So that's kind of fun because he's kind of like broadcasting live the whole time.
Yeah.
Also
so, like,
in Colorado, actually.
Yeah, true. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, like, what
just,
are...
like, hopping a skip over from him right now.
Wanted to know what are all the channels, what's all being streamed.
Well, we know
also,
we
what
have
are their commercial
Camp
breaks?
Half-Blood reality TV, so we know that. But yes, we need to, we don't know all of the different ones.
And is there like...
The TV guide for this would be funny.
Oh, so funny. But also, like, is there like an Olympian like film and television industry? You know, like, do they have like Olympian soap operas and like...
Right. Like, oh my god,
like, are the
muses so funny? It's just
like
people reenacting all the old stories of all the gods.
So
like, I'm sure because they all want to see themselves. Like, it's not just Aphrodite and Ares who are, you know, centered and indulgent in this way. You know, it's all of them.
Oh yeah, they all are.
So it's kind of like in Avatar: The Last Airbender when like the troupe is putting on the story of Avatar and they're all like watching it. I feel like it's like that. It's what's happening on one of the channels.
Yeah.
Just like all the time, it's like reruns of the Olympian history.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Totally. And the Cupids listen, which is interesting. They listen to Percy and turn back, and I think it's interesting that like the point of this was to catch them in an embarrassing moment, but they actually like all the gods get to witness Percy and Annabeth problem solving and screaming their heads off, but like ultimately surviving and getting out of this trap. And like that's an interesting, especially after the last thing he communicated was sending Medusa's head. I feel like he's certainly leaving an impression with the gods throughout this book.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And this chapter ends on Percy saying, I hated being teased, I hated being tricked. He had plenty of experiences handling bullies who used to like to do stuff like that to him. And he kind of really like, he picks up the shield securely on his arm, turns to his friends and says, we need to have a little talk with Ares. And that is where we end our chapter with, Percy being like, I gotta go.
Reckoning
say
is
some
coming
things
for you
to that god.
Yep.
About what
we
just
have some
happened.
words to have.
Yes. Yes.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a hefty chapter. I feel like we've had
Yes.
some shorter ones recently. Like the last one we did, I think was the shortest chapter in the book so far. This has to be one of the longest ones.
Yeah.
And even though we're not moving forward in geographic space, we are getting through so much of Luke and conversations and meeting a whole new god and having this interaction and going on an entire side quest. So much happens in this chapter.
Yeah. And we get so much revealed that, like, you know, in a first time read doesn't all actually make sense and come together till the very end. But it's a very hefty chapter in terms of, like, the information that we get from Luke and Ares.
And Kronos' plan.
Yep. And, like, who actually stole the lightning bolt, how they did it, and who all is currently actively involved with assisting Kronos. We get so much. It's a very, very meaty chapter in that sense. And just, a lot happens. Like, the whole conversation with Luke, the whole conversation with Ares the Diner, plus a side quest. It's a very massive chapter.
It's meaty. And we get a whole EP. So there's a lot.
We do.
There's a lot going on here.
There's a lot happening.
Yeah. So I think we talked about a lot of the themes and a lot of the things that come out of this, but any final thoughts on chapter 15?
I think my final thought is that I feel like we really, particularly with everything that happens at Waterland, I feel like we're seeing the growth of, like, how much Percy has learned just from the amount of time being on this quest, like his ability to problem solve and think in the moment when they're, like, the group's primary problem solver is taken out, you know, and, like, not able to really, like, do that till the very end. I think that shows how much Percy has, like, on the job learned, you know, like, how to be in a quest.
And maybe like learned from Annabeth too.
Yes, totally. And Grover, you know, like, his role in that and, like, being the perfect person to serve as, like, the safety net that they end up absolutely needing in the end.
It's a good protector moment for him.
Yeah, it's a great protector moment for him. And also I think it's, like, huge for Annabeth, the way that she's able to, like, bring herself back into the present moment at the very end, like, at that really critical point where she's really truly needed because we need that math brain so she can calculate the correct trajectory of everything. Like, it's really impressive that she is able to in that moment because, you know, she has a little bit of time after the spiders, but not a ton through the tunnel of love that they're just, like, racing through. They each have, like, really important moments of, like, bravery and
pulling out kind of their best selves, their best moves out of this, even when they're faced with a really big obstacle.
And I think it's the first time we really see them working as a team very successfully, you know, where, like, all three of them are contributing, like you're saying, like, have their moments, and they all make it out alive and relatively unscathed.
Agreed. I love that for them. Wow, what a literal wild ride.
Truly.
And what fun and exciting to be awaiting Percy's confronting of Ares after this. He's ready. He's rubbing his hands together. He's like, we gotta go meet this guy and tell him what's what. So we shall dive into that next week when we read chapter 16, We Take a Zebra to Vegas. Bye.
Bye.